Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tonight we are reversing Pan-African propaganda with Indigenous truth. For the longest time, Pan-Africanists have insisted that Black folks are not Indian. These boule sellouts working at the service of colonial overlords have pushed this lie for generations to separate us from our Indigenous American heritage and lock us into a false African identity. This agenda has been going on for centuries. First, they said Black Indians didn't exist. But when we brought out the documents, the family photos, the oral history, the archaeology, and the genealogy, the truth spoke for itself. When we do our family research, we find ancestors on the dolls rolls, we find land allotments, and we find our families living in indigenous settlements across the Southeast. What we don't find are Africans in our family trees. So what did they do? They shifted the narrative. First, it was Black Indians don't exist. Now that we've proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt, they say, well, Black Indians exist, but they come from African slaves that were owned by Indians. Or, you're right, Black Indians exist, but they're just Africans that mixed in with natives. And this is nothing but a deflection and a misdirection. Another psyop to keep us tied to a false African identity. They even try to reach back to the oldest Black indigenous civilization in the Americas, the Omec, and claim that those were Africans who somehow migrated here in ancient times. This is desperation. They see our indigenous movement, what we call the Great Awakening, and they're trying to hijack it, rebrand it, and redirect it right back into Pan-Africanism. And it's not just the Pan-Africanists. You even see foundational Black American content creators now making videos talking about how we're really indigenous. See how they want to play both sides now. Now that it's fashionable to talk about our Aboriginal roots, now that it gets a lot of clicks and a lot of views, it gets the people going. Now we've got a lot of people trying to grift onto the movement. You see, we've got African commentators who are even hosting panels on TikTok and Clubhouse debating our indigenous heritage. Everybody's doing all of this to stay relevant in the algorithm and to ride our coattails. So I'm here to warn you, this is where we are in the awakening. The truth is just beginning to reach the masses, and yet African Diaspora News Channel has already put out a video claiming that the debate is settled before the debate has even begun. Tonight, we're going to react to that video that they did the other day. We're going to break down their propaganda in real time, and I'll be joined by a couple of special guests who will help me expose the lies and stand firm in Indigenous truth. So buckle up, smash the like button, hit the Cash App if you support the mission, check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com, and let's get on into the content, y'all. This is going to be a wild one indeed. And if anybody in the comments section, if anybody watching in the future or anybody live right now is familiar with Phil Scott and his African Diaspora News Network, then let me get some fists or feathers in the chat, because you guys who are familiar with the content that he's made for years, you're probably surprised now that you see him doing this indigenous grift, right? But let's get into it, guys. I think he even hired a new host. He has some new brother up here. And his whole job, his whole mission is to convince us that Black Indians really come from Africa. So really you're African, nana nana boo boo. I mean, all right, all right. Let's get into it. Good old Phil Scott and the Pan-African Diaspora News Station. And guys, before we get started, let me see who we got in the building. We got Look Who's Talking in the House. Nice to see you. Indigenous Indian Heritage Vineyard. Nice to see you. Javante. Nice to see you. Let me see. Where's this video at? African Diaspora News Channel. They thought they were slick with this one. As soon as I seen it, as soon as I seen the thumbnail, as soon as I seen this thumbnail, I saw the psyops, y'all. I saw the psyops. The debate is settled, huh? Okay. All right, here we go, guys. Try not to get too upset, okay? What we're about to watch is what they call a grandma killer. Watch how they try to play in our face about our heritage. Here we go.
Do we have narratives from early settlers saying that some of the Native Americans are described as Black? The answer is yes, we actually do. One of the earliest descriptions we have of Black-skinned Indians here in America is from the Quaker William Penn. He described the Lenape Indians of Pennsylvania. Here's what he said: tall, well-built, of singular proportion, and walking with their chins lofty. He describes them as Black. Now, with Penn's description, most people stop there. Read a little further, and things get a little interesting. Because in their Blackness, he compared them to the gypsies of England, not Africans. So was he describing people with our features? Well, this is what he says. He says, the thick lip and flat nose so frequent with the Blacks are not common for them. For I have seen as comely European-like faces among them. And then he goes on to say, and the noses of several of them have as much of the Roman. We're talking about that alkaline arched Roman nose. See, this is why the testimony of Europeans gets a little shaky, because the descriptions of many indigenous people all
Hold on, guys. We got to run this back. For those of you that are unfamiliar with propaganda, this is how propaganda works. First, before they hit us with the psyops, they have to lull us into a sense of familiarity. Watch it, guys. Watch it.
What up, everybody? Shemaine Man Theo E.J. Wilson with African Diaspora News. Now, there seems to be a creeping narrative going on that us Black Americans from the foundational lineages have a more complicated origin story than...
What does that even mean? Us Black Americans from the foundational lineages. They're just trying to grift too many movements at once. They're trying to tie themselves to the foundational Black American movement while tying themselves to the Native Black American movement while also promoting Pan-Africanism. You're not slick. What did he just say? What? Us Black Americans of the foundational lineages. I'm not a foundational Black American. I'm a Indigenous American. Guys, don't take my word for it. Look it up. Look up the FBA flag. I used to rock with the FBA thing, just like you. I used to think it was cool. Yeah, those tethers, they trying to be like us. But then you realize what you're really a part of. If you've ever seen the FBA flag, you've seen this date, 1526. And some of you have probably wondered, what does that date 1526 mean? Well, if you go to the official FBA website, you know, it's trademarked, they sell t-shirts and all that good stuff. It says in 1526, Spanish colonizer Lucas Vasquez de Ayllon brought the first documented enslaved Black people to the shores of what is now the South Carolina and Georgia coastline. So all these foundational Black Americans banging on tethers, banging on Africans, guess what? Their group really just believes that they're the foundational tethers, that they are the foundational best tethers of them all, if you will, because they believe that their history starts by being brought here as African slaves by the Spanish in 1526. But the average FBA person doesn't know that that's what the movement's really about. They haven't read the fine print. They just think it's about reparations. They just think it's about delineation. They just think it's about lineage. Well, do you believe your lineage started in the Americas by being brought here by a Spaniard as a slave in 1526? Because I know my indigenous ancestors have been here way before 1526. So now you see why, you know, I speak a bit critically about that whole FBA thing and why it's so asinine that the FBA content creators like that Black Alpha Elite dude or Black Alpha Network is trying to make all these new videos about, oh, Black Americans are indigenous and FBA. Like, all right, let's get back to it.
Folks come from, and do we have narratives from early settlers saying that some of the Native Americans are described as Black? The answer is yes, we actually do. One of the earliest...
Yes, we do. One of those earliest descriptions is not the one he's mentioning. One of the earliest descriptions is from Cristobal Colon himself, also known as Christopher Columbus. 1492, he describes Black Indians in the Caribbean, right? 1524, Giovanni de Verrazzano described Black Indians in the Carolina coast. He said, quote, "They are dark in color, not unlike the Ethiopians." In Virginia, early 1600s, we got Captain John Smith, who's documenting Black Indians. 1612, we've got William Strachey in Virginia documenting Black Indians. 1634, William Wood, Massachusetts, New England, documenting Black Indians. 1709, John Lawson, their Carolinas, documenting Black Indians. He says their color is of a tawny, dark color. They daub themselves with bear's oil. Okay. Now see, here's the thing. Here's the difference between me and this other brother you see on the screen. Mike is going to tell you about all of these firsthand accounts of Black Indians, and Mike is going to tell you that these Black folks were indigenous to the Americas. Playboy right here is going to pull the okie doke on you and be like, yeah, all these explorers said there was Black Indians, but the Black Indians really came from Africa way back when.
Descriptions we have of black-skinned Indians here in America is from the Quaker William Penn. He described the Lenape Indians of Pennsylvania. Here's what he said: tall, well-built, of singular proportion, and walking with their chins lofty. He describes them as Black. Now, with Penn's description, most people stop there. Read a little further, and things get a little interesting. Because in their Blackness, he compared them to the gypsies of England, not Africans. So was he describing people with our features? Well, this is what he says. He says the thick lip and flat nose so frequent with the Blacks are not common for them. For I have seen as comely European-like faces among them.
This is lazy scholarship at best. So this Pan-African dude, a part of the Pan-African Diaspora News Channel or whatever the hell, he's going to say that the earliest account of Black Indians is William Penn. Notice how he didn't give you a date. If you're familiar with my content, you know that you guys call me the king of receipts. Why? I give you facts, statistics, dates, firsthand sources, primary sources, right? Homie's going to tell us that William Penn is one of the first people to document Indians, right? But he didn't give you a date. Guys, this quote from William Penn is from 1683. So when he's trying to confuse you and say, well, William Penn says there's dark-skinned Indians, but they look kind of European too. We're talking about 1683. We've been colonized since 1492. Yes, from the early 1500s to the late 1600s, there's going to be admixture amongst us because Europeans have been grafting their lineage onto ours. But look at how he's trying to confuse you early on. Hey, one of the first people is William Penn. He says there's dark-skinned Indians, but they also look kind of white sometimes. So like, is that really us? Okay.
And then he goes on to, so frequent with the Blacks are not common for them. For I have seen as comely European-like faces among them. And then he goes on to say, and the noses of several of them have as much of the Roman. We're talking about that alkaline arched Roman nose. See, this is why the testimony of Europeans gets a little shaky, because the descriptions of many indigenous people all across the world have been described as Black. In other words, everybody was Black to them. Many of the unmixed indigenous peoples they encountered were described as Black. But is a 16th century description of people as accurate as, let's say, a DNA test? Well, let's.
Propaganda right in front of our eyes. He's going to give you a first-hand account from the 16th century, tell you the 16th century account isn't really that good, so we should go to DNA tests. Notice how he didn't bring up all those accounts I brought up, right? Notice how he didn't bring up Christopher Columbus, 1492, Giovanni de Verrazzano in 1524, Captain John Smith in 1608, William Strachey in 1612, William Wood in 1634, John Lawson, 1709, Noah's Webster Dictionary in 1828 that describes Americans, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. Damn. But he's going to cherry pick a terrible example in the 16th century to now tell us that this is why we should rely on DNA instead.
Delve into that, because as you know, Black featured people are indigenous all over this world. But what a lot of people don't know is though they may look like us, under the microscope, we're quite different. And what a lot of people also don't know is that the science of genetic testing today was pioneered by a Black American scientist named Dr. Rick Kittles.
Dr. Rick Kittles is a fraud. Dr. Rick Kittles is a fraud that is behind the AfricanAncestry.com website. And Dr. Rick Kittles is a fraud that is peddling $700 DNA testing kits. Family celebration bundle, $729. Patriclan test kit, $299. Metriclan DNA test kit, $299. Rick Kittles has been exposed for his fugazi DNA tests time and time again. He got exposed on CNN, y'all. Rick Kittles got exposed. No, was it CNN? Help me out, guys. Which news station runs that 60 Minutes segment? Whichever news station runs that 60 Minutes, that's where Rick Kittles got exposed. So when you see the Pan-Goofy African diaspora news station propping up this new host to tell us how the first-hand accounts of Black Indians aren't reliable, so we should rely on Rick Kittles' DNA tests. Guys, look at the vested interest. Look at what they're trying to sell you. I ain't gonna front. I'm a businessman. I keep the lights on. I have a genealogy website. I have a genealogy services I provide. You can book a genealogy consultation with me, where I'll teach you the 3-step process that me and my family use to trace our heritage and get tribal citizenship with the Muskogee Creek Nation back in 2021. And my genealogy consultations are 90 minutes to 2 hours long, and they range from $99 up to $170. Or you can pay $729 to send your DNA to somebody else who's going to backdoor you and sell it to pharmaceutical companies and tell you some bullshit about you being 10% Nigerian, 20% Ghanaian, 30% Sierra Leonean. Guys, genealogy has nothing to do with the DNA test. Genealogy is paper trail records, birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, land allotments, tribal rolls. But you see the okie doke right in front of our eyes. You see how we just said, hey, yeah, Black Indians, yeah, but DNA tests. That's what you should rely on. Rick Kittles. That's who you should go to. All right. Let's keep it going, guys. Let's keep it going.
Folks come from, and do we have narratives from early settlers saying lofty? He describes them as blue and not conceptions of them. They may concise indigenous 18th century description of people as accurate as, let's say, a DNA test. Well, let's delve into that, because as you know, Black featured people are indigenous all over this world. But what a lot of people don't know is, though they may look like us, under the microscope, we're quite different. And what a lot of people also don't know is that the science of genetic testing today was pioneered by a Black American scientist named Dr. Rick Kittles. You see, Dr. Rick Kittles is one of the pioneers from extracting DNA from bones and finding the haplogroups that match with them, specifically in that Black graveyard they found in New York City. Not only that, the brother has authored over 160 peer-reviewed papers and has researched the links between DNA and like prostate cancer in Black folks. So the brother knows his stuff. People say, well, you can't trust that ancestry DNA stuff. Listen, Dr. Kittles' database precedes theirs by over 9 years, and he has the largest collection of Black DNA by far anywhere.
Guys, this is the okie doke. They realized that we're hesitant to rely on DNA testing, so they came out with an African ancestry DNA testing kit just for us. All right, don't fall for the hype.
In the world. When it comes to DNA testing, that's our science. So let's take a look at what we...
This motherfucker just really tried to claim that DNA testing is our science, guys. You know that DNA testing, that DNA stuff that white colonialists have used to subjugate our people? You know that modern day gynecology was built on the backs of enslaved indigenous women being experimented on with no anesthesia, right? You know about Henrietta Lacks, how those white folks took her DNA and her hella immortal genes and got to the bag off of it, right? But this ignorant buffoon is going to try to convince you that DNA testing is ours and that Rick Kittles is one of us. Okay.
See under the microscope when we examine other groups of Black looking people, because due to their latitude between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, these Black looking people have retained their African features. But if you look under the microscope, Polynesians and Andaman Islanders and oceanic Blacks like the Australian Aborigines, they have a slightly different genetic structure than Africans do. And the most important thing they have is an admixture of another human-like species called the Denisovans. Africans don't have that. They're only Homo sapien DNA, the purest sample of any group of people on the planet. And red Native Americans, the ones who descend from the Siberians, also have significant admixture from the Denisovans. So the only
And the red Siberian natives are not us. So why are you even bringing them up in this discussion? I don't get it, guys. Is he just trying to confuse us? Is he just trying to lead us astray? I mean, what else could his mission and motivation be? Why else would the the African Diaspora News Channel make this video, hire him to produce this video? Come on. Something fishy's going on. Can't quite put my finger on it. He's talking about some red natives now. He's talking about some red Bering Strait migrant. We all know there's a big difference between an Indian that looks like this and an Indian that looks like this, guys. Come on. We all know there's a big difference between the native migrants from Siberia and the true Aboriginal, autochthon, Black indigenous people of the Americas. I mean, we all know this. And you see how I can break that down so simply, give you a couple photographic examples, right? But when it comes to old boy with the Pan-African News Channel, he just wants to confuse you. He just wants to lead you astray.
it makes sense that if they had lived together for significant amounts of time, nature would take its course, a little bit of interbreeding would go on, and the blacks who were here would have those admixtures too. And if we descend from them, they would show up in our DNA. So what happens to Black Americans when they take DNA tests? Do we have any of this Denisovan admixture that we see in these other Black populations that are indigenous throughout the world? Hardly any. Dang near none. Overall, Black Americans have the oldest human DNA in the world, and the only other group that shares that DNA are continental Africans. Now, there used to be a narrative out there that say, well, you really can't test for Native American DNA. There's not.
Come on, guys. Just because he tried to big up Rick Kittles and his fraudulent DNA testing company, just because he did that, we're going to have to take a quick commercial break from him and his video over on the Pan-Goofy Network. And let's hear from Rick Kittles himself. Let's see how Rick Kittles got exposed on 60 Minutes for his fraudulent DNA test that actually tests less than 0.01% of your DNA. Yeah, you heard that right.
People have been waiting a lifetime for something like this. Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door that was closed for centuries.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe. I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people. It opens up such possibilities.
But the problem is, Sierra Leone wasn't the only answer Vi got. A company called Relative Genetics found a match to a single person in the Wobi tribe in the Ivory Coast.
Hey, Vixen99 says because he looks more appealing to the people than Phil Scott. Yeah, they got them some handsome young brother up there to lull the ladies to sleep real quick. Look into my eyes, girls. Look into my eyes. You not indigenous, you African. Like, come on. Yeah, having him up here convincing us that we're not African, it was much better than that bullshit that Phil Scott was trying to do that I exposed him for over a year ago.
You claim you're an Indian, and yet you get no Indian set-asides. You run around here claiming you're an Indian. Do you know what an Indian look like in America? Elizabeth Warren. You know what? Let me pull up her picture. Let me show you what an Indian look like in America. Hold on. Don't come to my page to the Indian crap, because I don't want to hear it. Give me a second.
If you're not familiar with African Diaspora News Channel, if you don't know who this person is on the screen, this is the man who runs the African Diaspora News Network. This is the man who found it, who cuts the checks for all these people posting these videos on the African Diet. This is his boss. Oh boy, in that video, talking about, yeah, we Indian, but the DNA and we really African. Yeah, this is his boss talking cash money shit about our grandparents.
You claim you're an Indian, and yet you get no Indian set-asides. You run around here claiming you're an Indian. Do you know what an Indian look like in America? Elizabeth Warren. You know what? Let me pull up her picture. Let me show you what an Indian look like in America. Hold on. Don't come to my page to the Indian crap, because I don't want to hear it. Give me a second. Let me pull up what a real Native American in this country looks.
Oh, Afro 72 says Wilson, who did that video for the Pan-African Diaspora News Network, is part Jamaican. Just saying, exactly. We got tethers, we got foreigners up here trying to convince us that we're not really indigenous and to rely on DNA tests. And we're going to debunk the whole DNA thing, the whole Rick Kittles thing in just a moment. I just want to give you some background on this African Diaspora News Station. This is the founder of it a year ago. I exposed him in this video a year ago. You can go on my channel, Mike TV, just type in Phil Scott in the search, and I've been on his pan goofy ass. Look at what he had the audacity to say about our lineage.
Like, hold on, give me a second. Pull her up. Elizabeth, hold on. Liz. Oh, sorry, y'all. Hold on. I forgot. I didn't just have her. Well, hold on. Pull her picture up. Elizabeth on the screen for y'all. Hold on. Let me download this picture real quick, just so y'all can see what a Native American looks like in America. Okay, image. There we go. That's that great Native American right there. Okay, if y'all don't look like this, if you don't look like this, you're not a Native American. If you don't look like this, you're not a Native American. That's a Native American in this country. If you go look at all the recognized so-called Native American tribes, all of them got people that look just like that running it. I went to see myself.
I wonder if you know that I know he's lying right now. Oh, you got the new Margellas? That's what's up. That's what's up. I see you. That's your BMW? That's nice. That's your girl? Golly. Okay, I see you. But I just want to know one thing. You ready? Why the fuck you lying?
Come on, y'all. So when the Pan-African Diaspora News Station realizes that the Great Awakening is upon us and Black Americans are leaving Pan-Africanism, they're researching their indigenous roots. Well, now he's going to hire some half Jamaican, half Black American dude to try to tell us to go get a DNA test from Rick Kittles instead of listening to the oral tradition of our ancestors, instead of researching paper trail records. But guys, real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to show you a quick clip about this whole Rick Kittles guy and his Fugazi DNA tests. And then we're going to get back to that video and we're going to bring up a couple of honored guests. Let's get to it.
Different? Now, I got all excited about that, and this is different. Now, how could that happen?
Then a third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple Mendanka individuals in Senegal.
What's up with this?
And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches. This goes on and on.
My goodness.
So what do we know about Vi's ancestry?
So for anyone who's confused, for anyone who's new to the show, for anyone who needs context, this 60-minute special is showing that this Black woman took a DNA test from several different companies, and each one gave her vastly different results.
DNA does indicate that she has distant relatives in the Mende tribe, but she also has relatives in all those other tribes. So no one can say for sure where Vi's maternal ancestor actually came from. When I handed Vi the certificate, she got extremely emotional about it. She wept, and it meant so very much.
People want to believe.
They want to believe they've gotten an answer.
And it's not fair of us to let them believe that we're giving them certain answers.
People want to believe, and it's unfair for us to let them believe that we are giving them certain answers. This guy speaking is a geneticist.
Because scientifically, we just can't.
Because scientifically, we just can't. Damn. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. Because the white dude is letting us know, hey, the DNA stuff, nah, we can't really tell you where you come from. It's just entertainment. But this Black dude, Rick Kittles, is going to try to bullshit you.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest,
exclude you. He included you.
but we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns
About yourself.
for DNA.
And that's the rub. This business of genetic genealogy is fraught with limitations. For one thing, it can only provide information about a tiny fraction of our ancestry.
You hear that, guys? It's only giving you guesstimates on a tiny fraction of your ancestry.
Because we get half our DNA from our mothers and half from our fathers, almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and remixed every generation, making it impossible to trace what comes from whom. There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure: the Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called mitochondrial DNA, which passes unchanged from mother to child. Hank Greeley, a law professor at Stanford University, has studied this new field. He worries that people don't realize just how
I'm sorry, I said he was a geneticist. He's a law professor at Stanford who studies DNA.
many ancestors they actually have.
8 generations ago, both you and I had 256 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Wait, you're saying that if you go back 8 generations, we have 256 great-great-great-grandparents?
Yes, it doubles every generation. So you've got 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and it adds up fast. It adds up so fast, in fact, that if you go back 20 generations, you've got over 1 million grandparents.
1,048,576 to be exact. And in each generation, DNA testing can provide information about only 2 of them.
So you could be Peruvian on your mother's side, Japanese on your father's side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, you know, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
Damn. He said they are not doing a good job. DNA testing companies are not doing a good job letting you know the limitations. But businesses don't go around telling you how weak their product is. And now we're going to get back to Rick Kittles and his weak-ass DNA testing kit product he's shoving down our throats. Hey, let me get some fists and feathers in the chat. If you've seen these ads, these these AfricanAncestry.com ads, he got some light-skinned sister partnered with them, some doctor, and they doing all these ads on YouTube and social media and TikTok talking about, get your African ancestry DNA. Okay. You think an African ancestry DNA testing kit is even looking for indigenous heritage?
We don't know.
Just like, do you think that a African diaspora news network is where you should go to for indigenous education? Okay.
Oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA,
tiny bit of your DNA. Whoa. The Pan Goofy dude, Wilson, on the African Diaspora News Station, he was saying, hey, DNA was created by this black dude, Rick Kittles, and it's not a white person stuff. It's Rick Kittles was spearheading it, and Rick Kittles is a man, and Rick Kittles just said out his own damn mouth, they only testing a tiny % of your DNA. Okay.
I just start telling you how weak their product is.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
It's less than 0.1%.
and that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
It's less than 0.1%.
and that's pretty.
What did he say? What did he say? Huh? Whoa. 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 Foul on the play. Foul on the play. No. What did he just say, guys? Rick Kittles, the founder of African Ancestry DNA testing, he said that they're testing what percentage?
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
It's less than 0.1%.
and that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
Yeah. Less than 0.1%. They're testing less than zero. They're not even testing 1% of your DNA. But we got clowns, absolute buffoons on the African Diaspora News Channel telling us that we need to do a DNA testing kit and we need to look at Rick Kittles, y'all. And Rick Kittles just said they're testing 0.1% of your DNA. Whoa.
Indigenous all over this world. But what a lot of people don't know is though they may look like us, under the microscope, we're quite different. And what a lot of people also don't know is that the science of genetic testing today was pioneered by a Black American scientist named Dr. Rick Kittles,
who says he's testing 0.1% of your DNA.
You see, Dr. Rick Kittles is one of the pioneers from extracting DNA from bones and finding the haplogroups that match with them specifically.
And the pioneer can only track 0.1% of your DNA.
In that Black graveyard they found in New York City. Not only that, the brother has authored over 160 peer-reviewed papers and has researched the links between DNA and like prostate cancer in Black.
And with all the research he's done, he can still only test genetically 0.1% of your DNA.
Black folks. So the brother knows his stuff. People say, well, you can't trust that ancestry DNA stuff. Listen, Dr. Kittle's database precedes theirs by over 9 years, and he has the largest collection of Black DNA by far anywhere.
He has the largest collection of Black DNA by far, and even still, he can only test 0.1% of your DNA
in the world. So when it comes to DNA testing, that's our science. So let's take a look at what we see under the microscope.
That's not our science. Me and mine, me and my people, me and my tribe, we're indigenous. Nowhere did our indigenous ancestors play around with DNA testing. No, stop it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what I want to do is bring up a couple of special guests. We're going to introduce them. We finished reacting to this video. I mean, we still got a good, 10 minutes or so left in it. But we're going to get into it, y'all. We're going to get into it. He's going to tell us how, don't listen to your grandmama. Rick Kittle says that we're all ancient Africans, right? But without further ado, we've got Miss Empress in the building and Miss Johnson. How you ladies doing this evening?
Doing all right, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm staying busy. You know how it is.
I see. It's good to see you.
Good evening.
Likewise. Hey, nice to see you guys. So, why don't you guys start telling us your story a little bit? What got you interested in genealogy? When did you first discover my content? I know we had a consultation a couple days ago. So just kind of fill the folks in on your own personal journey and what you think so far about this video that we've reacted to.
Sis, you first or me?
You could go ahead and lead off. I'll follow up.
Okay, great. Thank you, sis. Hi, everybody. My name is Kesha Williams, but you guys could call me Empress. This is my sister right here. And we both were always interested in doing our genealogy, but life goes by and, you get caught up in everything. But the things that grandma say to you and that, other elders in your family about us being Native and everything, it always sticks in the back of your head. So one day in May, I came across Mike's content on YouTube, and I just started following him because there was a lot of things that he was saying that was clicking. And, it just stuck in my head. So I was watching, that was around May, I would say. And later on, I go and I visit an aunt I haven't seen for 20, 30 years in San Francisco. And while we were sitting there visiting, talking, pulling out the old pictures, catching up, she was showing me pictures of my grandmother. And she was like, oh, I have her marriage certificate. You want to see it? And I was like, yeah, I sure do. I want to see it. So she pulled out the marriage certificate and she showed it to me. And while I'm reading it, I'm looking where grandma said she was born. On the marriage certificate, it says Muskogee. And then I see my great-grandfather's name, Alex Perryman, and his wife's name, Maddie Walker Perryman. And I was like, Perryman? Why does that sound so, why is that name hitting with me? I didn't know why or whatever, but the name just sound, so I just took a screenshot, went home. And then another day went by or so, and then I was watching another one of your lives, Mike, and you said something about, you had mentioned the Dawes rolls and about how that's one of the ways to find your native ancestry. So I was like, Dawes rolls, what's that? And so I go to type it in and look for it. And then I put in my grandfather's name, and boom, there he was. And how to make sure it was him, I clicked on a referring card, and it led to my grandmother's name, and also my great grandmother's name on there, and her husband, who I was told what her name was Hattie. So it all was adding up, and I couldn't believe it. I had tears rolling down my eyes, and I'm like, Perryman, and we're a native. It was true. Grandma didn't lie, and it was a surreal experience. And I called my sister, and I shared that experience with her, and sent her everything so she could look herself. And we really sat on the phone and we talked, we laughed, and we even shed some tears. And I shared the information with my mom, and she was so happy. And she was like, well, Mom always said we were native, and I always knew, we were native. But to see it, and it was all because you led us there. Watching your content brought it back up to, faith. How you say, no longer in the back of your mind, like it's in your face with it, like it's right there. So why not, and that's what led us to do our genealogy consultation with you too, so we could find out more. Sis, you want to go?
Yep. And you know what? I think she's on mute. Let me unmute her. There you go, sis. Go for it.
So hello, everyone. Look who's talking in the chat. Joshina is how you pronounce my name. But yeah, the experience was very, very, very awakening. My sister actually called me once she received the marriage certificate, and she was so excited. She shared pictures with me, and we're both looking at it, and we're like, oh, Perryman. And I was like, sis, that name rings a bell. And she was like, I know it does. So like she said, a day or so goes by, excuse me. And, she calls me back and she goes, oh, I found a way to get on the Dawes roll. So, I've been looking, and she goes, look what I found. And she screen shares with me. And it was such a, an experience. I got chills. It's like seeing your people on paper, people that they said didn't exist. When we were younger, my dad told us that we were native. He told us that we were native to this land. This was our land, and our people and our ancestors are on this land. And we were told that from what I can remember, and that's on both sides of our family. But you tend to listen to the doctrine that you're taught in school. You tend to believe the naysayers when they tell you, oh, no, you're Black, so you're African. But when you actually can go back and follow your lineage on paper and look at the records, and everything is adding up, and you're seeing not only your ancestors, their ancestors, and then property records, land allotments. I mean, you're seeing how your family was all together as one. And then to know the history, how we were declassified as a people and spread out and separated and just destroyed, it hurts. It really does hurt. So I have a passion to not only fight for me, my sister, our family, but others too, because we have things that was stolen from us that can never been replaced. Our heritage, our culture, our way of life, how we live at one with nature. All those things were stolen from us, and we've been longing for it. That's why we came back looking for it. So it's just such an awakening to and an experience. And I'm so appreciative that we found your channel in May. So it's been it's been some time now. I feel like I'm a vet, you know. I stay watching, sucking in, and, you know, getting knowledge, and, you know, sucking up the content, and I just appreciate the fact that the things that my dad told me is coming to fruition. Like, we're seeing what he told us in real life. You know, we are native to this land, and we do have a people, and we are Black Native Americans, and we are here, and we're about to be loud. I know I'm loud, but y'all, you know, it's going to get a lot louder in here soon, because our numbers are going to grow. A lot more people are going to start looking at their lineage, following the papers, and looking on the Duns and the Dolls rolls. So we're going to grow as a people. So I just want everyone to know that, you know, it's worth it. Getting your consultation with Mike, and getting the tools to, you know, find your lineage, and know how to know what you're looking for, and how to put two and two together, and making sure you're just going on the right track. It's really worth it. It's very, very encouraging. You know, I'm confident. I know I can help somebody else now. Now look, that's how confident I am.
Yeah.
That's how confident I am. So thank you, Mike, on live. I wanted to just tell you that in front of everyone.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was a pleasure connecting with you both. And yeah, you know, why don't you guys speak to a little bit of what the consultation was like for you guys? Because as you can see, we clearly have people that are realizing we're getting in touch with our indigeneity, and they're trying to hurry up, get in front of us, and steer us towards DNA testing. And I mean, call me biased, but I just feel like not just the consultation service I provide, but just genealogy in general, it just provides so much more than a DNA test could ever tell you. I mean, you guys are looking at official federal documents, land allotments. I mean, meanwhile, we can't find a single official document that says we're African, but they want us to pay hundreds of dollars to spit in a cup and send it to strange corporations that are just going to tell us that they think we're African.
Well, all I got to say is I don't believe in that DNA testing stuff. I think the only thing the DNA testing is good for is finding a relative, probably. But as far as being able to tell me my genealogy and who I am and where I came from, I don't trust it. Because at the end of the day, who's really behind those DNA testing? And what's the motive in them telling all of us that know and can see on paper that we are native to this land, that we're from Africa? Why? It's to disenfranchise us. That's how I feel. And at the same time, I'd be like, African where? Prove it. Prove to me on paper that I'm African. Because right now, all the paper, the federal government paperwork that I'm running into is saying that I'm Native Black American. And it also states that I'm from the Perryman bloodline. And that bloodline is one of the oldest bloodlines here in the Americas. And by you telling me that I'm African, you're telling me that all these explorers from Spain, from France, that came over here and wrote these accounts, that they sent back over to Spain and to England, stating that we were Black. All these paintings, all these drawings, all these journals, all these statues, that there was already Black people here, Native Black Americans, the true Americans. So you telling me all of them was lying too? We all just crazy. All of them are all crazy. No, I don't think so. It's all in a play to disenfranchise us from our land and keep us down, and to discourage you from finding out who you truly really are, all of us. Because there's a huge percentage of the Black population that is Native right here, that roots go back. And Black people here are the highest documented people in this land. Some of the people here that shout that go back to Africa stuff ain't even been here as long as we have been here. Our blood is in this soil. Our blood is always going to be in this soil, no matter the lies they tell, no matter the tethers they get up here to speak, that's from Jamaica and Haiti and Africa, to discourage us and tell us that we Africans because of Mansa Musa and some Africans that got on some ships that come over here. Now, I don't disagree that it could have been some trading going on, but they did trading with the Black natives that was here already. Why on every continent, this is a question that I always ask people to ask themselves. Why on every continent, all the indigenous people are all dark? They're all considered black, blonde hair, blue eyes, dark skin, straight hair, dark skin, curly hair, but all are shades, copper colored. And none of them other countries, continents, with indigenous black people, are they trying to tie a tether to them to Africa? Why in the great United States of America, the native black people here have to be tied to Africa? Ask yourself that question. But no
Never
matter
heard,
what, this discourage you from doing your genealogy and look for your lineage, look for it, and figure out who you are on your own. And then once you find your genealogy and see who your ancestors is right there on paperwork in your face, I bet you'll look at them pan-goofies a little bit different. Because I sure do. Because all growing up, ever since Jesse Jackson in the late 1980s, in the early 1989, 1988, I think. I was in high school. I was probably like 14, 15 years old in 9th or 10th grade. And they came out with that African-American stuff. And it was a few elders kept on saying, we're not African. Why do they keep on saying that? And they set us up. They set the play on us to put that tab on us. And it's not who we are. We are natives to this land, to this soil. This ours. And they mad because we waking up. We reclaiming what's ours. And the whole world is finna watch it. This is going to grow and grow. This movement is going to grow big. And when I say big, it's going to be something big. We finna stunt on the whole world. All that African stuff is going to go right out the door. They're not going to be able to deny us because it's all on paper, baby. It's all who we are.
That's right. And notice they never call anybody an African Jamaican or an African Haitian or an African Brazilian, but that's where all the African slaves went. Less than 4% of all the Africans trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade went to North America. But they specifically want to reach over here to us and put that African title in front of our name. But you know what I want to do, guys? Let's go back to that video real quick. Let's finish out that video. Let's see what other asinine points the pan-goofies over on the African Diaspora News Station are trying to do. But guys, you clearly see why they had to get this new brother up here to try to give us this propaganda, because last time Phil Scott got up there trying to tell us that Elizabeth Warren is the real Native American and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Last time we gave him a lot of flack for that. I think he learned his lesson. So now he's getting slicker. Now he got some half Jamaican, half Black American dude up here to try to tell us that we really descend from ancient African migrants.
Lived together for significant amounts of time, nature would take its course, a little bit of interbreeding would go on, and the blacks who were here would have those admixtures too. And if we descend from them, it would show up in our DNA. So what happens to Black Americans when they take DNA tests? Do we have any of this Denisovan admixture that we see in these other Black populations that are indigenous throughout the world? Hardly any. Dang near none. Overall, Black Americans have the oldest human DNA in the world, and the only other group that shares that DNA are continental Africans. Now, there used to be a narrative out there that say, well, you really can't test for Native American DNA. There's not enough information on them. No longer true. Native Americans have now tested in sufficient quantities, and we have.
No. I'm a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. My tribe nor no other tribe allows DNA testing to be done on the citizens of our indigenous nation. That is a lie. He just lied to our faces right there.
Yeah, he didn't lost his mind. He's telling stories for sure. He's lying out the side of his neck. That's why I said everybody has to be careful for them. You have to be careful about these ones right here trying to discourage and lead you astray and lead you in a whole nother direction instead of the truth. They will lead you way over here instead of towards the truth. Don't listen to them. Go do it on your own.
And even their own mainstream BS about us sharing DNA with Africans, they still mislead us with that. Scientists claim that we share certain DNA markers with West Africans. Not North Africans, not East Africans, not South Africans. But notice how old boy is just trying to make it seem like all continental Africans and us share the same. No,
It's the continent, huh?
Africa is one supercontinent. Europe is a part of Africa. Asia is a part of Africa. The Middle East is a part of Africa. So what do you mean we share DNA with continental Africans?
Where are you going?
Let's keep going, y'all. Let's keep going.
No.
Their genome haplogroup. It is QM242. If you are in the patrilineal line of Native Americans, that's going to show up for you. Where do Black folks most often cluster? In haplogroup E1B1A, which is also connected to the pharaohs of ancient Kemet, including Ramses the Great, and Black American women often test positive for the mitochondrial Eve gene, the oldest mitochondrial.
Come on, y'all. All these DNA testing companies try to link us to African populations because that's all that's in their databases. They overemphasize African ties while underrepresenting indigenous American ancestry, especially when Southeastern natives were erased or reclassified. I mean, we saw the video earlier from Dr. Rick Kittles himself, who said he's testing 0.1% of your DNA. But listen to Wilson, our resident Batty Boy Jamaican man, keep glazing Rick Kittles.
Bloodline on Earth. And who else has that DNA? You guessed it, continental Africans. Where did these Black folks who mixed with the Muskogee Creek come from? More than likely.
Hell no, motherfucker. Now you're talking about my tribe.
Wait,
Fucked up.
Wait. What did he just say?
He said, where did these Blacks that mixed with the Muskogee Creek come from?
He said mixed. Oh, he done lost his mind. Yeah.
Mixed. Yeah. He done lost his mind. Yeah.
With no receipts. With no receipts.
No receipts. He ain't sharing his screen. He ain't nothing. You a whole Jamaican up here. I am a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation. I can speak on my tribe's history. You can't speak on my tribe's history.
Isn't
Not
it
at
funny
all.
how it's always a tether trying to tell us something about ourselves?
Come on.
It never ceased to fail. It's always a tether trying to tell us about us.
Guys, in preparation for tonight's live stream, I went online to pull a picture of my grandfather, Town King, Chief Justice of the Creek Nation, Black Indian hero, if you will. And it was crazy when I looked for a photo of my ancestor, Thomas Jefferson Adams Harjo. I came across a Facebook post. And this Facebook post was from the Chattaoogla tribe of the Bayou Lacombe. I didn't even realize, but in May, somebody from this tribe from the Bayou Lacombe shouted out my ancestor.
I know that's right.
He made a post. He took an excerpt from some information that I have on my website, nativeblackancestry.com, on my ancestor right here, Black Indian Town King, Chief Justice of the Creek Nation, who is, mind you, listed on the Dolls roll number 2145, not as a freedman, not as a half-breed, as a full-blooded Creek by blood Indian. So we got a tether up here trying to tell us that these Blacks mix with Creeks, and I can show you a documented Town King, Black Indian, Chief Justice of the Creek Nation, who's a direct lineal ancestor of mine, who is listed on the Dolls roll as a full-blooded Indian.
That's right. That's right.
Damn. But we don't know what we're talking about, y'all. We ain't got no paperwork. We ain't got no genealogy.
That's a Black man. That's what they call a so-called Negro. That is a Black Native American, and they will attach an African tag to him just because his skin tone, but his phenotypes and his face structure is totally different from an African. We don't look like them. It's just our skin tone.
Let's talk about it.
And not even all of the skin tones.
Right.
That's why we were called the copper colored people of this land, because we come in all different shades. Me and my sister are different shades of copper. Like, come on now. Same mom, same dad.
Real quick, I'm going to read this excerpt that they posted on my ancestor. Thomas was a distinguished, full-blooded Creek citizen, successful attorney, and respected leader in early Oklahoma. Born into the Creek Nation, Thomas was recognized as a town king for his leadership within his community and for his significant contributions to the legal and political systems of Indian Territory. A skilled attorney, he eventually became the Chief Justice of the Creek Nation Supreme Court, where he made lasting contributions to the judicial landscape of the tribe. As a member of the Creek Nation, Thomas was deeply involved in the affairs of his people, serving as a key figure in both legal and community matters. His success in the legal field, coupled with his respected position in the tribe, established him as one of the most influential Creek citizens of his time. His legacy is further explored in the book Black, White, and Indian: Race and the Unmaking of an American Family. And interestingly, while Thomas was listed as a full-blooded Indian on the Dawes Rolls, the official census that documented the citizens of the 5 civilized tribes, later U.S. Census records categorized him as Negro. This shift in racial classification highlights the complex and often contradictory racial dynamics of the time, particularly the reclassification of Native individuals that had darker skin. It underscores the broader history of racial categorization and the challenges faced by Native Black Americans in a system that has frequently erased or marginalized their indigenous identities in favor of racial distinctions. Thomas's story is a poignant reminder of the resilience and adaptability of Native peoples in the face of racial reclassification, and his legacy continues to live on in his descendants, particularly through Michael Lane Jr.'s work in genealogical research and advocacy for Native Black American heritage. And that's me. Hi, I'm Michael. But guys, this is crazy. Let the Jamaican tether tell it. There's blacks that mixed in with the Creeks. No, the blacks were the Creeks.
We were here. We are the copper colored people of this land. Like, I really don't understand what's so hard to believe that we are native to this land. Is it because you're not one of us? We're not trying to exclude you. We're happy that you know who you are. Just be happy that we're finding who we are. And that's all we want. We're not asking for you to give us anything for it. We're finding who we are. We're coming home. We're awakening. We're finding our heritage, our culture. There's nothing wrong with that. You should be happy that we're doing that.
That's right. But they're only upset. They only upset because they have something to lose by us waking up.
That whole part. That's how I feel. I feel like with us, doing our lineage, our genealogy, and finding out our heritage and our connections and who we are, it cuts the tether, because African where? And I think everybody is mad about that, because so many people have staked the claim to Native American. So many other people, I'll be nice tonight, have they staked that claim that they Native American, but nobody can say that and be serious and be for real but us. We're documented as being the natives here.
Well, and for anybody who gets caught up in the etymology, for anybody who's like, well, no, we're not native, we're really indigenous, guys, get out your feelings. We're both. Those Bering Strait Asiatic migrants, they can only say Native American because they've been here for thousands of years, but they're indigenous to Asia. They're migrants. We can use Native American, we can use indigenous, we can use Aboriginal, we can use autochthon, we can use antediluvian, because we are all of the above. So those of you that get caught up on my use of terms like native, you got to understand, we can use whatever term we want interchangeably, while those folks have to stick to that native designation because they can never fix their mouth to say they're indigenous to the Americas. But what I want to do is let's go to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to bring up that video and finish reacting to it.
Finished my consultation with Mike. A lot of information in a short period of time, but it was very valuable information. I'm definitely excited to get started searching on my genealogy. He has been an awesome resource, gave me a lot of information, a lot of things, a lot of pieces to the puzzle I didn't have. He was able to help me find them, and I 100% recommend Mike and his services to anyone who's looking to crack the code, so to speak, on their genealogy, because there's a lot of how we say fake news going around with this subject, and it's very important that people are able to put the pieces together, because if you don't know your history, you don't know your future. So 100% sign up.
That's right, guys. What are you waiting for? Go to nativeblackancestry.com to book a genealogy consultation. The sisters up on the panel just connected with me last Sunday, so you know it's real, okay? You know it's real. Let's talk about it.
It's very real. Speaking of the consultation, me and my sister had a great time. We learned so much, and you definitely pointed us in the right direction and gave us the tools to do the research on our own, and also gave us the choice to have you do our genealogy also, which we are going to take you up on that offer. But I recommend that if you really want to know your genealogy and find out about your heritage, to book a consultation with Mike, and you will not be disappointed. He will set you on the right path to do it yourself, and you can also have him do it for you. It's either or, but he definitely has great insight on the matter and can show you how to get to your ancestors and the tools that you need to use for heritage. This is a great guy right here. I just want you guys to all know. Although the consultation was very informative, he makes you feel welcome, and he's not in disagreement as to your claim to being native here, a Black native here, or to the tribe, or what your grandmother said. And if you go to other genealogists, and they already don't want to hear nothing about your native history, they're going to tie you to just Africa.
I think you actually told me something like that during our session, right? You said you went with another genealogist, and they were trying to like they didn't even believe that Black folks could be Indian.
Yeah, at all. I have spoke to him, and that's why I didn't even go any farther with him. I did like somewhat of a consultation, asking some questions, and they were giving me a very condescending tone and attitude and persona as to native. The freedmen aren't native, they're freed Africans. And that's why when we did the consultation with you, we had you explain to us the difference between a freedman that was a slave or an African slave that was freed, and then the freedmen that were the free people. They were already free, that weren't slaves, stuff like that. And you had explained that and broke that down in the consultation. And that was so helpful for us to help us put two and two together and understand and pinpoint some problems that we were having. And that's why I'm saying that it's nothing like going to another Native Black American to seek what you're looking for, because others are going to discourage you from it. Why would I go or listen to somebody who is a tether tell me about me and my people? I want to go directly to the source. And being that Mike has been through this procedure already before, and he found his lineage, his heritage, and done his genealogy, why wouldn't I ask an expert on the matter that has did Native Black ancestry? It only makes sense. So my advice to everybody is to book a consultation with Mike and go from there. You can't go wrong with it. I'm telling you, you'll be happy that you did. And it's a very great experience. And it opens your eyes to a lot about yourself too.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the 5-star review, sister. And real quick, before we get back to the video, I want to acknowledge this comment from Vixen. Vixen says, I even question that Native Americans have been here for thousands of years. If that's the case, none of the paintings, artifacts, etc. look like them. Someone is lying. No, check it out. This is what you got to understand. There's a simple way to break it down right here. Check it. We are the original indigenous population of the Americas. That includes Canada, the Great Lakes, North America, Southeast, East Coast, Central America, South America, the Caribbean. All of this was in our domain. So if we're the first original people here, where are we going to choose to live? In all the lush green areas, where all the forests are, and the natural gardens, and the rivers, and the waterfalls, and the lakes, and the Gulf, and the coast. That's where we want to live. We don't want to live in the frigid cold of Alaska and northern Canada. We don't want to live in the hot, desolate desert plains of New Mexico and Utah and Arizona. So this is what happened. When the Bering Strait migrants came down, they came across the Bering Land Bridge. Some of them stayed in Alaska, northern Canada. That's where you get the Inuit and all those Asiatic Eskimo-looking folks. I think they claim Eskimo is a derogatory term now, so they prefer the term Inuit. So let's respect that. But when they came down and they come too far west, Hey, that's Queen Califia, Black Indian Amazonian Queen territory. You better get off our land. When they go too far east, that's Mississippi and Mound Builder, Black Indian culture. You better get off of our land. When they go too far south, they running into the Maya, the Omec, the Black Indians. You better get off our land. They don't even have the opportunity to get to the Caribbean or get down to South America because they can't even get past the indigenous Black Indians in Central and Southern Mexico, right? But you got to understand that this is why we call them the Southwestern Plains natives, because the areas that they inhabited were the plains. These were those Native Americans that the white settlers, the last stage of westward expansion of Manifest Destiny, when they got in their wagons and went to Oregon and California on the Oregon Trail. Remember when they're running into those Apache, Comanche, Navajo, who are scalping them and stuff? That's those Bering Strait natives. They're in the Southwestern Plains. Look, the Navajo reservation is right here, the Navajo Nation. And guess what? You don't find pyramids, you don't find mounds, you don't find ancient indigenous architecture in the Southwestern Plains. Because these people aren't us. They ain't build no pyramids. They ain't build no mounds. But we have pyramids all across the Southeast and the East Coast. We got pyramids all across Mexico, all across South America. But we don't find none of these earthworks, these effigy mounds, conical mounds, platform mounds. We don't find none of them in the Southwestern Plains because they are migrants. They're not the original. So hopefully that breaks it down for you, Vixen. But let's get back to this video. And we got about 10 more minutes of it. And then after this video is over, we're going to give you a great breakdown on this whole Creek Freedmen controversy and what it means to be a freedman. And some of you heard that last month, the Creek Freedmen of my tribe, they won their citizenship rights, right? And a lot of you are confused by that. You're like, what? Well, why would the tribe give these Black folks tribal citizen, right? Something weird is going on, right? Well, we're going to break all that down for you guys. Just wait and see.
Likely from African lineages of enslaved folks brought over here through the Middle Passage. Now, it must be said that there was a subsect of Black Americans who were raised like literally on Native American reservations, with one of their parents being actually Native American. But for the rest of us,
and Ravenhawk says, you are slipping on the artifacts in the Grand Canyon. No, I'm not slipping on them. That is not attributed to the Southwestern Plains. That's why I didn't mention the artifacts in the Grand Canyon when I just mentioned the Southwestern Plains natives. That's something that our indigenous ancestors played a part in. That's been covered up. Y'all know about G.E. Kincaid and the Smithsonian and the military, right? But I didn't mention that because although that is in the Plains region, that wasn't them. That wasn't the Asiatic folks.
We generally trace our Native American roots to Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, or like me, Seminole. And isn't it interesting that these also happen to be the 5 civilized tribes who owned Black slaves?
Oh, so now he's going to try to tell us that, hey, Black folks, we know we used to claim that you're Wabos and Pretendians and you're not really Indian, and you guys found Creek paperwork and Choctaw paperwork and Seminole ancestors, but guess what? Those tribes owned slaves, so really you was just some African slaves. Are you saying that every member of those tribes owned slaves? You know that one of those tribes you listed are the Seminoles, and they were freedom fighters who had multiple wars, freeing slaves, resisting slave systems. What are you talking about? This man just tried to lump the Seminoles in with slave traders. Even if you look at my tribe, the Muskogee Creek Nation, guess what? Not all of us own slaves. We had a civil war over slavery. There was the Upper Creek and there was the Lower Creek. The Upper Creek were against slavery. They sided with the Union. They freed slaves on plantations, whether they were Black Indian slaves or African slaves, it didn't matter. They were totally against slavery. And we had a whole civil war over it because the Lower Creeks, they assimilated with the Europeans. They ran plantations. They had slaves. And guess what all the Lower Creeks were? Half-breed Indians with Scottish daddies and a native mama. They was half-breed sellout, agent provocateurs. But we got pan-goofies like Wilson from the African Diaspora News Channel telling us about these 5 civilized tribes got Black folks as slaves. The white people that wiggled their way into those tribes are the ones that had slaves. Europeans paid $5 to get placed on the Dawes roll, hence the term $5 Indian. Europeans married to get placed on the roll. They called them intermarried whites. European settlers even got adopted into my tribe. You could have a colonial plantation owner in the South, a part of the Confederacy. They hear that these Indians in Oklahoma got oil on their land. So they reach out to the European buddy who's running the Dawes Commission and say, yo, can I pay you a little something on the low to get adopted into one of those tribes? They say, yeah, sure. Just send us that money. And then they get adopted in and they move to Oklahoma. This white plantation owner moves to Oklahoma, brings his slaves with him. And now y'all talking about Creek Indians got black folks as slaves. Whole time, this Creek Indian is a European that was adopted into the tribe. You know why we can't have these foreigners speaking about our indigenous history? Because they don't know what the hell they talking about. But what you think about this, Empress and Miss Johnson?
You hit it right on the nail. Like it's more to it than just to say that Creeks or any native tribe owned slaves. It's so many different avenues to the situation. Like you just said, how the YT got adopted into the tribe and they brought their slaves with them just to come and get a piece of the land, a piece of the oil, as usual, the resources they want. And they're documented down as a native adopted into the tribe, and then they have these slaves. And we also have the natives that purchased other natives just to set them free. Yep. It goes, it's so much more than what they're trying to throw out. And it's just a block after block, an excuse after excuse to deter people from not doing or not believing who they are. These tethers are worse than the white T-man putting us on the dolls as freedmen when we were full black natives.
But that's what they're used for, though. They're used for that purpose, just to block our progression, you know, and they've been used as that tool for decades at this point. You know, they take our jobs. They're hired before us. You know, they get grants before us. They get the home loans before us, business loans before us as tethers when they come over here. So of course they want to be connected to us. Of course they want us to be connected to them. It's saying that they have rights. They have our rights, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and not only that, but you know how asinine of a statement he just made, talking about the 5 tribes all had slaves. He might as well say U.S. citizens own slaves.
Yeah.
Okay. Which U.S. citizens?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the South? Are we talking about the North? Are we saying all U.S. citizens in the South own slaves, or the rich elitists did? I mean, see how it's more nuanced than these pan goofies want to admit? But he's going to try to say, oh, hey, guys, all these black folks coincidentally come from the 5 civilized tribes, and they the ones that had slaves. Guys, this is how deep they tried to force this slave reclassification, right? They even place on the Freedmen roll a category that says slave of, right?
Right.
And there were some folks, a part of those tribes, who were enslaved, whether by their fellow family members for protection, whether by white folks that wiggled into the tribe, whether by other indigenous factions that were warring with their faction in the past, but it's more nuanced than people understand. Here's a perfect example right here. This is a Choctaw, not Creek. This is the Choctaw Nation Freedmen roll. And the difference between the by blood roll and the Freedmen roll is the Freedmen roll has a slave of category, trying to kind of assume that all of them are slaves. And this one actually was enslaved, or listed at least as someone's property. It says right here that they're a slave of Jim Davis and Emmeline Perry. But that's their story. That's not our story. If you look at my ancestors that are reclassified as freedmen, if I go to their freedmen roll and look at their category that says slave of, it's blank. There's no slave master names. These are stamps. These are dates. This right here is some notes that carried over into this category. But whoa, my ancestors are classified as freedmen, but they were never slaves. Riddle me that.
It's because of the tone of their skin that they put them in that classification as freedmen when they full-blooded native. See, they play too much. But look who did the dog rolls in the first place. That's where that all falls into play at. It was to disenfranchise, to take control, to demean, and to dismember. And that's what they've been doing to us for years because of this land.
And let's go ahead and give everybody a quick breakdown on this whole Freedmen thing so that we can, enlighten people once and for all. Let's go ahead and break it all the way down real quick, okay? We'll break it all the way down. Let me pull up a whiteboard real quick. Check this out, y'all. Check this out. Check this out. And right now, you guys are just getting a little freebie, okay? This is part of the things that I teach people during those one-on-one genealogy consultations I provide. But I'm not above giving y'all some free game, okay? Check it out. We got freedmen of U.S. territory. We've got freedmen of tribal territory. Well, some of you guys are saying, well, Mike, what's the difference between U.S. territory and tribal territory? Geographically, not much. You can have an area like Louisiana or Alabama. You got some land in Alabama that's ran by an indigenous tribe, so that's tribal land. The rest of the land is governed by the U.S. government, so that's U.S. territory, right? But let's talk about some of the similarities between the freedmen of U.S. territory and the freedmen of tribal territory. Sometimes in U.S. territory, you did have people who were not slaves, but were enslaved. Not to come off like an asshole, but the difference between a slave and someone enslaved is the difference between us and Africans. You could say Africans are slaves. They were captured by their fellow African, sold to foreigners as slaves, transported to other colonies as slaves, and treated as slaves. But our ancestors were prisoners of war. Our ancestors resisted colonial imperial colonization when we lost some of the battles, when we got outnumbered, when some of the other tribes sided with the enemy and backdoored us. Well, we were taken as prisoners of war, reclassified, meant to work our own indigenous land for some other white tea person, and now we're racially reclassified and disenfranchised. There was even during the Yamasee War of the early 1700s, there were Yamasee Black Indians who lost the battle, so they were shipped to the Caribbean as slaves. Right? So again, that's why I go out of my way to make sure you guys understand the distinction between a slave and someone who's enslaved. I got family members who were incarcerated in the past. Matter of fact, my dad went to prison for a year. Is my dad a prisoner now? Or was he incarcerated for a period of time? He may have been a prisoner while he was doing his time, but imagine if they tried to say that he still needs to identify as a prisoner and all of his descendants should identify as descendants of prisoners. Do you guys see how backwards this is now? Can you see how backwards it is? But again, U.S. territory, we had some folks who were enslaved. They got freed and they got classified as freedmen, hence the term. Same thing in tribal territory. You had some Black Indians who were enslaved and then freed, hence the term freedmen. But this is the part where nobody talks about. Nobody wants to discuss this. In U.S. territory, there were also folks who were never enslaved, and they still got classified as freedmen. For example, I had a sweet lady a couple months ago. She hired me to trace her family's genealogy. I showed her documents where her ancestor had a Freedmen's Bureau labor contract negotiated. So she says to me, oh, this document is from the Freedmen's Bureau. So my ancestor was a freedman. So my ancestor was a slave? Well, no, I then showed her documentation where her ancestor is listed in the 1840 census in Louisiana as a free person of color. Not only that, her ancestor ran plantations. Not only that, her ancestor owned slaves. But wait, there's more. I found the actual document that showed that her ancestor was purchasing slaves to grant them their freedom. It was called manumission at the time. I found the actual bill of sale, the actual purchase agreement, where it says, when this transaction is concluded, so-and-so is free and has the full protection of my family. But she would assume that her ancestor was enslaved because of this title, freedmen. And same thing in tribal territory. You had free Black Indians, free people of color who were never enslaved. But when it came time to sign up on the Dawes rolls, they got racially reclassified as a freedman. Whoa. Now, at the same time that they're allowing white folks to pay to be a part of the tribe, to marry into the tribe, to get adopted into the tribe, when it came time for us to get listed on the Dawes rolls, they racially reclassified us as freedmen. And a lot of you have a misconception that the Dawes roll was just this innocent document where these tribes are just keeping track of who their members are. No, the Dawes roll was created by the US government, more specifically Henry Dawes, who was a Massachusetts governor, and he came to Oklahoma and got to decide who's an Indian and who's not. So imagine how many hundreds of thousands of our ancestors were rejected from getting placed on the Dawes roll just based on their phenotype. And for those that got lucky to get accepted onto the Dawes roll, they didn't get placed on the by blood roll. They got placed on a separate freedman's roll. And as you can see here, whether you're classified as a Creek freedman or a Choctaw freedman or a Chickasaw freedman, it doesn't matter the tribe. Do you guys notice some blank spots here? Do you see some blank spots? That's the blood quantum category. They purposefully did not record the blood quantum of those they reclassified as freedmen. Why? So they can kick them out of the tribe later on when the white folks finally got power within the tribal nations. There was something called the Treaty of 1866. The Treaty of 1866 stipulated it don't matter if you buy blood, it don't matter if you're a freedman, you get full tribal citizenship, you get full tribal benefits, you get land, acres and acres of land, anywhere from 40 acres to 160 acres. And any land that was left over, the U.S. would sell to European settlers, right? So what do? Well, these European government agents say, hey, these folks who are a bit dark, these folks who are failing our brown paper bag test, well, we're going to reclassify them as freedmen. And instead of giving them 160 acres, like we're giving the by bloods, we're going to give them 40 acres. So now we're actually getting into some differences between the freedmen of U.S. territory and the freedmen of tribal territory. Freedmen of U.S. territory were promised 40 acres and a mule, never got it. Freedmen in tribal territory were supposed to get 160 acres per person, but instead they got shorted and they only received 40 acres apiece. So one group did get their 40 acres, so to speak. The other group did not. If you guys have ever heard of Sarah Rector, the youngest, richest colored girl in the world in the early 1900s, they're about to make a movie about her. Well, how did this girl become so rich? Well, they say her land had oil. Well, how did this 11-year-old girl have land in Oklahoma? She's a Black Indian. She was a member of my tribe, the Muskogee Creek Nation. Her ancestors were reclassified as Creek freedmen. So instead of getting their 160 acres, they got 40 acres. But they got lucky, and their 40 acres had oil beneath. So now she's making all this money with the oil, right? And it really wasn't a Cinderella story. They tried to trick her out of her money. Oftentimes, when a Black Indian found gold under their land, the local government would assign them a white guardian to manage their financial affairs. That white guardian would trick off the money, gamble it away. It wasn't really a Cinderella story, right? It was a lot of crazy stuff going on. But still, when you guys hear of Sarah Rector, you don't correlate that with Black Indian. When you hear of Greenwood, Tulsa, Black Wall Street, did you ever stop to think how all these Black Wall Street-like towns are sprouting up in Oklahoma when Oklahoma isn't even a state yet, when Oklahoma is still Indian territory? Why are all these Black folks in Indian territory? How did they get here? Oh, they walked the Trail of Tears. Oh, they were a part of those tribes. Oh, those people in Black Wall Street who got bombed weren't Black Americans. They weren't African Americans. They were Native Black Americans. They were indigenous Black Americans, if you will. But a lot of us still don't put two and two together. But I digress. What do the ladies have to say about this? How was it for you finding that document of an ancestor of yours listed as a freedman, not really knowing what's going on with this freedman thing? And then when we were able to connect last Sunday, I broke it down just like this. And I imagine it kind of made things a little bit clearer.
Sis?
Yeah, of course. The first thing you do when you see that word freedman is you think, oh, wow, my ancestors were slaves. That's the first thing that comes to head. But after our consultation and you kind of like gave us the information and, the know-how to search for the keywords and what to look for, and to just go back a little bit further because the reclassification of the things, it made a lot more sense. It made sense of why they would be labeled freedmen It made sense to why we kept on finding ancestors that were reclassified. We found one ancestor that had been reclassified from mulatto to colored to Negro. So, and it was all down the line, like 10 years apart in their senses, you know. So, same person. How did she mutate? What did she do? She evolved? I don't know. But I don't know. But all I know is that knowing that, you know, that freedmen word doesn't necessarily mean that they were once slaves. It empowers you. It empowers you to look further and look deeper, because there does need to be education on that. All freedmen were not slaves.
Absolutely. Let alone African slaves. Even if you do have an ancestor who was enslaved, that doesn't mean they were an African
at all, because it was tons of natives that, you know, well, prisoners of war, and enslaved. And it was some of us that was free and being kidnapped and captured and then sold to different plantations and moved around that way also. So just because you find an ancestor that says enslaved on there or owner of, does not necessarily mean that they are African. If they're on the freedmen's list, they're native. That's how I take it. If they're on the Dawes rolls, and it doesn't matter, freedmen, half-blood, whatever, I still see them as native no matter what, because I know that it doesn't mean that they're African. That African term is just being pushed on us, and it's not true. It's not true at all.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we got a few more minutes of this Pan Goofy video. Let's see how he's going to try to tell us that we were all slaves of the 5 civilized tribes. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's where he's going with it.
He said that there was a subsect of Black Americans who were raised like literally on Native American reservations, with one of their parents being actually Native American. But for the rest of us, we generally trace our Native American roots to Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, or like me, Seminole.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I was on mute. I guess he's never heard of the Wampanoag, the Narragansett, the Nantucket, the Catawba, the Calusa, the Yamasee, the Taino, the Arawak. Damn, guys, I guess the Jamaican boy here only knows about 5 tribes out of the thousands of tribes in North America alone. Okay.
And isn't it interesting that these also happen to be the 5 civilized tribes who owned Black slaves? Meaning, even if you have an ancestor who has paperwork connecting them to one of these tribes, that could just be as much of a mark of being owned as having an English last name. But wait a minute.
Damn. So if you find a document of your ancestor being tied to an indigenous tribe, that's just as much of a marker of you being a slave as having a European last name. Meanwhile, I already showed you documents where my ancestors listed as a full-blooded Indian, town king. I mean, meanwhile, literally, because of that false narrative, that's one of the reasons why I created the website nativeblack.ancestry.com. And on nativeblack.ancestry.com, you can actually reverse the whole myth of us all getting our last names from slave masters, because first of all, not all of our ancestors were enslaved. And what most people don't realize is during the process of forced assimilation, indigenous communities adopted European surnames. So on my website, nativeblack.ancestry.com, you can even do a tribal surname lookup, and you can see if your last name aligns with any of the surnames that were adopted by the 5 civilized tribes. You see how you provide resources like this to help the community instead of trying to beat a sense of inferiority into our people, telling us that our last names come from slave masters when most of us descend from people who were never even slaves at all. But what do the ladies think about this?
Everything you said is right. I mean, from my understanding and what I read upon, I learned that a lot of natives took on adopted names. It's no different from when any other culture comes in contact with the European, they adopt a name. When I was in school, I had friends that were Asian descent, and they were in school with me as a little girl, and they had two names. They had their names they came over here with, and they had names that they had adopted over here to, I guess, more Americanize themselves or make themselves more familiar to the European. So it's the same thing. Our tribes adopted those names. They weren't given by a slave master. They were names that they picked out and they took on themselves.
That's right. Let's talk about it. Well, let's get on to the video, y'all. I mean, I know we keep pausing, but whenever they spout such mistruth so confidently, we have to stop and correct the record, don't we?
Many folks will say, what about the pre-Columbian black explorers that got here before Columbus? Good damn question. For example,
guys, now he's going to tell us that the most ancient indigenous culture, the Omecs, the black indigenous Omecs, now he's going to try to tell us they're really African migrants.
Expedition of Mansa Abu Bakari in 1311. Like 2,000 ships came over here. None of them came back. Did they leave an imprint? Absolutely. Was it a sufficient imprint for us to come from? Not numerically speaking.
And he's talking about a rumor, guys. This hasn't been substantiated. There's no archaeological research. He's talking about a rumor over in the Middle East somewhere where someone talked to a guy who talked to a guy who talked to another guy who talked to someone who knew Mansa Musa, and they heard from a bird that Mansa Musa had a brother or something that sailed out this direction and never came back. Or like maybe one ship came back. So because of that story, they want us to believe that the ancient Olmecs were African migrants. But when we talk about our family's oral tradition of being indigenous, we're supposed to disregard that for DNA testing, right? You guys see the psyops?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see it. If we're going to talk about rumors about the Mansa Musa stuff, what about the experiences some of the Black natives here going over to Africa and being approached by the Africans over there, and they're telling them, oh, we came from you. You guys came over here and started, and you guys are our ancestors. America is the true old world. And I've seen a couple of accounts of that, different videos on it. I wish I had it.
No. Actually, that same day we did a consultation. The last lady I consulted with, she and her husband actually did research and went to Africa. She was trying to figure out the Pan-African thing. She went there. She discovered they do cannibalism and all kind of barbaric stuff. And she said that the old Africans actually pulled her to the side and said, you guys are not us. You're a whole different species. You're a whole ancient culture of people. We're not like you at all. So yes, if y'all go to Africa, they will tell you straight up, we are not them. We do not come from them.
Yes. And they'll say, you guys are the true Indians. They said, you're the true Indians over there. You're the natives to that land. We came from you. And that's why I always say, well, not just because of that, because of other stuff that I've read up on too, but I believe America is the true old world. I believe,
America has more pyramids than the rest of the world combined. We have pyramids as old as the ones in Egypt, some even older. The largest pyramid in the world is located in Cholula, Mexico, right in the Gulf Coast area. I mean, come on.
Yeah, America is the true old world. I believe some of us could have went to different continents and had settlements, did trading or whatsoever. But I think it's in reverse how they try to teach us in school and what this Pan-Africanism is pushing out here on us, that it has been switched around as from coming from Africa to here. No. I believe it's the other way around. And no matter what, we are the indigenous here, the native Black Americans here. Yeah, that's us. No matter how they try to push it, that Omec head. And I like the one you show without the helmet that shows our hair.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, hold on. I'm going to try to find that one.
Yeah, because don't nobody got lips like that. Don't nobody got this cheekbone structure.
No. This is why they only show you the Olmecs with the helmet on, because some of them Mexicans are now trying to claim that some of them got noses like that and some of them got lips like that. But notice how they never show you the Olmec with the helmet off, because you ain't got hair like that.
Say it. They don't have that. They don't have that hair. Only our hair can do that. When wet, be loose, wavy, curly. When it dry, do the sponge up act and be woolly. Only our hair can do that. Only we can change the textures, and we actually have hair. I don't know nobody else hair on this planet that can do that but ours. That's it. Nobody else hair can do that. That's
and check out this Omec head. This is in a museum in Mexico. It's literally called El Negro. He got a high top fade. Does he not?
Sure does. And he got that peak that we all have. That little peak that come down here. I have that too. My mama got it. My kids got it. We all got that. That's us. And everybody want to claim it's them.
Well, hold on. Stop. You're wrong. I'm wrong. We've proven we have indigenous ancestors tied to the Creek Nation, but they were really African slaves. And if they weren't slaves and they were indigenous, really way back in the day, they came from like Mansa Musa's brother's expedition. Okay, so let's hold our horses, because he's about to educate us on how we're really indigenous American African immigrants.
Like 2,000 ships came over here, none of them came back. Did they leave an imprint? Absolutely. Was it a sufficient imprint for us to come from? Not numerically speaking.
Oh, guys, peep game. He didn't give us any evidence for this imprint. He claimed that a voyage came over here with 2,000 ships from Africa. There's absolutely an imprint, but we can't see a single imprint. We ain't over here eating jollof rice or eating fufu or doing food or none of that shit. But apparently there's an imprint in North America from Africans.
However, a pre-Columbian African explorer to the Americas and an indigenous American are necessarily two different things. Well, what about the Omecs, people will say? Great question. If you study the art of the Omecs, they have two.
I know this Negro did not post a picture of him next to an Omec statue when you don't look like an Omec, you Jamaican migrant. He don't even look like that statue. Why are you posing that? Your nose does not match that nose. What are we talking about? If he wasn't bald, we would see the tether hairline. If he wasn't bald. Come on.
Hey, great question. If you study the art of the Omecs, they have two different phenotypes. One that looks like the one we're very familiar with the big African noses and lips, right? And the other one that has more stereotypically Native American features. Y'all,
what do you mean by stereotypical Native American features? What, guys, why is he not giving us any links right now? He's not giving us the name of the statue so we can look it up. We don't even know if that's an Olmec statue he's showing right now. We don't even know if the slanty-eyed statue is an Olmec statue or if he pulled that from China. We have no idea because this is poor scholarship.
To understand this thus far.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I think one of the sisters has something to say. Go for it.
No, I've never seen those statues before. Never.
I've never seen them linked as a Olmec either. That's what I was thinking, the same thing. I've never seen them linked as an Olmec statue either. The heads that we've usually seen look like us. I've never seen that. So who knows where he got it from. And he's not showing no receipts. He's not saying where this statue is at and dated. Like, what museum? Where's it at? Come on, I need receipts.
I just told you, I showed you this photo. I said it's called El Negro and it's in a Mexican museum. That's enough for you guys to look up El Negro Olmec statue Mexican museum and you can find it. But notice how he won't give you that kind of info because he's not being honest about what he's claiming.
Exactly.
Come on. You think he's slick though?
The bodies that have been tested with the same DNA science that links Black Americans and Africans to ancient Kemet shows no connection with the Omecs and either Black Polynesians or Black Africans thus far. My theory is that there's going to be more bodies to be discovered to explain the two different phenotypes that we see in their artwork. But until then, it's just a theory. The hard science up to date says that the Omecs came from indigenous populations. I know, bro. I was shocked too. But listen, this is where the evidence leads.
Why is he so shocked that the Olmecs are indigenous? Because he wants us to believe the Olmecs are African migrants. Check that out, y'all.
Scientifically disciplined mind does not impose their paradigm on the evidence. They let the evidence inform their paradigm. This is why scientific literacy is so important. This is why primary sourcing in your researching is so important. This is why it's so important that the American school system failed most of us, because we have to not only find the information, but find the scientific methods on our own. And a lot of us haven't done the knowledge. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, if we had so many Black folks brought from Africa, how come there aren't really that many records of it? And I'm like, here's a great place to start. Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade.
Thank you for finally giving us a source. Thank you for finally naming something that we can look up, we can verify, we can Google, we can do something with that. Thank you. It took us to damn near get to the end of the video for us to get to that. Now check this out, y'all. Live in real time, we're going to check out his source. I've never looked up that book. I'm doing a live stream right now. We've got to use the best, quickest tools available to us. The smartest tool that man has created present day is artificial intelligence. The smartest AI is ChatGPT. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this source that he just cited. I've never looked up. I'm just learning about this book for the first time. I never even knew it existed. I've never asked ChatGPT about this book. Let's see live and direct what this is all about. Are you there, ChatGPT?
Absolutely, I'm here. Just let me know what you need help with or what you're curious about, and we can jump right in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I changed your voice to a seductive female voice. What I meant to say is, how you doing this evening, baby?
Well, I'm here to chat and help out in a friendly, professional way.
Oh,
But I won't be.
You try to keep it professional. Okay. Don't call HR on me, okay? We can keep it professional.
Absolutely. No HR needed. We'll just keep it nice and professional. If you need anything, just let me know and we'll keep rolling along.
Oh, yeah, I need something from you, baby, but let me ask for what you can actually give at this point in time, okay? We haven't uploaded your conscious into the neural net and placed it into a physical Tesla robot for you to be making sandwiches and cleaning my room and folding my laundry yet. So let's just stick to what you can currently provide me.
You got it. For now, I'm definitely just here to offer info, brainstorm, and handle all those digital tasks that don't require sandwich making skills. So feel free to throw any question or request my way, and we'll keep it right in the realm of the possible.
All right, I got something for you. So in my research as a genealogist, as the founder of NativeBlackAncestry.com, I've realized that there's been a massive cover-up, and most Black Americans descend from ancient indigenous Black communities of the Americas. I mean, there's anthropological, archaeological, first-hand accounts from earliest conquistadors, explorers, et cetera, et cetera. We know that the numbers of the transatlantic slave trade were grossly overstated. They used to say 100 million African slaves were brought here. Now they say 10 to 11 million, and most of those slaves went to Brazil. The second largest destination was the Caribbean islands, and they say less than 4% of them went to North America, right? So we're doing a live stream, and we're reacting to this video from these Pan-Africanists on the African Diaspora News Network, and they're trying to tell us that those of us that find documents of indigenous ancestors, those of us who believe that there were Black indigenous communities of the Americas, well, really were mistaken, and that even the most ancient culture, the Omecs, were really like African migrants related to Mansa Musa's brother or some kind of malarkey like that. Now, this person whose video that we're reacting to right now, they didn't really provide many sources. They didn't really provide many facts or statistics, but they finally shared a source. They're sharing a source right now called Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade by David Eltlis, I think, and by David Rich Ardson, I believe. Can you educate us on what this book is about? Who wrote it? When was it published? What is the background of the author? Is it verified as factual? Has there been new recent discoveries that negate some of the claims in that book? Is this a book that's just trying to attribute all Black Americans to having some transatlantic slave trade history, even though a lot of us have ancestors who were never enslaved at all? And even if we do have ancestors who were enslaved, I mean, they were most likely indigenous and reclassified, not African, right? But let me know, what is this Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade all about? And why are Pan-Africans trying to use that as a source to debunk our claims of indigeneity?
Absolutely, Mike. Let's dive into it. So, the Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade is a pretty well-known scholarly work. It's co-authored by David Eltis and David Richardson. Now, these two are pretty established historians in the field of Atlantic history and the history of the transatlantic slave trade. The book was published around 2010, and it's often cited in academic circles because it compiles a lot of data about voyages, ship routes, and the estimated numbers of Africans transported. In terms of the author's backgrounds, David Eltis is a well-respected historian who specialized in the economic and social dimensions of the slave trade. Richardson is similarly credible and has done extensive work on the subject. So yes, it's considered factual within the mainstream academic context. Now, to your point, the book does reinforce the established narrative that a certain number of Africans were indeed brought to the Americas, including North America, but it's definitely not the only perspective out there. As you mentioned, the numbers have been debated and revised over the years. And of course, there's a whole conversation about how this intersects with Indigenous history and the reclassification of Native Black Americans that you're focusing on. So when Pan-Africanists pull out something like the Atlas, they're usually leaning on it as a mainstream scholarly source to back up that transatlantic slave trade narrative. But that doesn't necessarily negate the complexities or the Indigenous histories you're talking about. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Well, hold on.
In short,
Time. Did you say that this book was written in 2010?
yes, exactly.
Okay. Hold on. It's written in 2010. Got it. In that book, what is the projected total number of African slaves that are brought to North America?
Yeah, so according to that Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, they estimate that less than about 400,000 Africans were brought directly to North America. That's a fraction compared to the millions taken to South America and the Caribbean, and definitely a smaller number than earlier.
We don't even have to continue this exercise. We don't even have to continue with the guys. Let's partake in some gambling. Who's down to do some gambling? Okay. Hypothetically, of course, we gonna keep it legal. Guys, I bet $20. I bet $20. I don't know. I might lose $20. Okay, I might lose, but I bet you that when we click play on this video, he's not gonna tell us how that book only says 400,000 Africans were sent here. Guys, the lowest number that I've seen historians cite is 92,000 Africans being shipped here. The highest number they estimate is 400,000. Even if we say they're telling the truth and 400,000 African slaves were brought here, we have over 45 million Black Americans present day. These slaves had a high mortality rate, a low birth rate. It is logistically impossible to take a sample population of 400,000 with a high mortality rate, a low birth rate, and have them balloon to over 45 million, whether it's been 200 years, 400 years, or 600 years. That's logistically impossible. But let's see if he at least, look, I'm surprised he's at least naming a source. He's at least showing a book with the name of the author present for us to look it up, right? But is he going to now tell us the stats? And if he tells us the stats, I think he's probably going to be insecure about it. I think he's probably going to know that 400,000 is such a small number. So how is he going to try to rationalize us starting out as 400,000 African slaves and ballooning into over 45 million Black Americans? Furthermore, we know for a fact since the 1400s, they were reclassifying Indigenous Americans as African. So if a census record says that Louisiana has 4,000 African slaves, that's just what the record says. How many of them are reclassified Indigenous Indians from that local region? Whoa.
In this book are firsthand accounts and shipping records of over 360 years of voyages by Europeans from Africa.
Now tell the audience how only 400,000 Africans are documented coming
to the New World. And there are 35,000 voyages listed.
35,000 voyages, but tell us how only 400,000 Africans were shipped here, allegedly.
And that's only 80% of the voyages that ever were, because if the European wasn't about nothing, he was about his money. And
I don't think he's going to reveal that only 400,000 African slaves are theorized coming here by mainstream academics.
Money, leave a paper trail. We have it in this big old book.
And the big old book says only 400,000 African slaves came here. Is he going to let us know that?
There's the issue of trying to enslave folks on the land they're indigenous to. Bartolome de las Casas.
Nope, he's moving on to a new subject now. This is how you debunk these pan-goofy foreign con artists. What else can we call him other than a con artist? He's cherry picking what oral tradition he wants to treat as valid, what oral tradition he wants to discard. He cherry picks a source, doesn't tell you what the source actually says. I guess you got to just buy that big ass book and read that big ass book to learn that they only estimate 400,000 Africans came over here. Or you can do like Mike and research it through help by ChatGPT and stuff like that to get it much quicker. But guys, did you actually think I was going to lose my 20? Did you guys think he was going to actually cite that 400,000 were alleged to come over?
Nah, I didn't think he was going to lose that 20 at all. You the king of receipts. You feel me? He ain't giving up no receipts, and him holding up that book and not even stating the key points that we really need to know to get his point across. He ain't even say it.
This is dangerous and it's intentional. He said it documents 300 some years. He said 33,000 voyages, but he won't tell us only 400,000 African slaves are theorized being sent to North America.
He intentionally left that out.
That's it.
And even if he mentioned that, he's not going to put it in perspective and let you know that that's less than 4% of all Africans trafficked during the slave trade.
Right. No, he's only saying enough to try to get his point across, and it's not working. It's not going to work on people like us because we know, we read, we seen, the real numbers, So all that stuff he's talking is nothing, and I'm quite disappointed in him and the African Diaspora YouTube channel, that they would even put him up there and let him spout that nonsense without no real receipts. Aren't you a credible channel?
No. How can you be disappointed? How can you be surprised when this is how the founder of African Diaspora News Station talks about our indigenous ancestors?
Wow.
You claim you're an Indian, and yet you get no Indian set-asides. You run around here claiming you're an Indian. Do you know what an Indian look like in America? Elizabeth Warren. You know what? Let me pull up her picture. Let me show you what an Indian look like in America. Hold on. Don't cut on my page to the Indian crap, because I don't want to hear it. Give me a second. Let me pull up what a real Native American
so mad,
look like. Hold on. Give me a second. Pull her up.
He's so mad about this Indian crap, guys? He's so upset.
Okay, image. There we go. That's that great Native American right there. Okay, if y'all don't look like this, if you don't look like this, you're not a Native American. If you don't look like this, you're not a Native American.
Damn, y'all. I'm not a Native American.
So he's basically backing up what the colonizers say, how they removed us. He's pushing their narrative, pushing their look of what a Native American is when it's us.
He's pushing their brown paper bag test.
Yes, exactly. And we all know that that's not true. Our grandma and our grandparents, our forefathers, our ancestors, they were not lying to us. And no matter what he says, we're on paper. We're on federal government paper at that. It's not no made up paper. It's not from the stuff that they're trying to push. We can actually say that we are who we are. And I don't understand why so mad. If you want to be from Africa, then be from Africa. But don't push that on us who know who we are. And don't try to stop and defer other people for finding out who they really are, who their ancestors are, and where they came from. Don't try to deflect and cheat people out of finding out their family's experience here and what truly has happened to us. You posted a video of a woman speaking, one of the elders, and she was saying how somebody tried to say that, no, you're not Native and this, and she called them a grandma killer.
Yep.
I'm with her. Mm-hmm. Don't try to take away from my grandmother's experience in Tulsa during my grandmother and grandfather and great-grandfather, their experience in Black Wall Street. Don't try to take away the experience of my family who actually pulled up their boots by the bootstraps and built something out of nothing after walking the Trail of Tears, starving and cold and being whipped and beaten all the way to Oklahoma, to Indian territory. Don't discredit my people, my bloodline. You want to be from Africa, but don't push that off over here. You know, that's crazy. It's insanity, Mike. When you look at it, it's like, why? What are you getting out of this? Who's paying you? Who sent you? Who sent you? Who told you to get up there and say that? That's the way how I'm taking it now.
Well, as far as the African Diaspora News Station, I mean, we know that they literally make money promoting this Pan-African bullshit. That's literally their whole shtick. Right. That's how he feeds his children. I mean, so it's also interesting how when you put the shoe on the other foot, we don't get down like them. They can't just be African. They have to get off on trying to force us all to accept an African identity. But when it comes to us, we're not saying every single Black American descends from Indigenous American Indians. We're saying our family does. A lot of us do. And if you don't believe it, if you think you descend from an African or something, then that's cool. You probably do. You're African. Congratulations. That's not us. But they can't do that. They can't say, okay, we're Africans and you guys are claiming to be Indigenous. So, okay, so we're a different people.
Yeah, we are. We're very different people. They're not like us. But my father and mother, my grandmother, my other grandfather, they've always told us that we weren't African. My dad was so mad when we were little, sitting down watching Roots, and I was like, Daddy, we were slaves. And he was like, we ain't never been no slaves, and we ain't African. We native to this land. He sat there and told me and my sister sitting there while we was little girls. We are from this land right here. We are native to this land on both sides, on my father's side and my mother's side. That's why I can't wait for you to get to work on our genealogy so we can see what Pops was talking about, because Pops is native also, Choctaw and Blackfoot, mama side, you know, Muskogee Creek. But yeah,
and we can find all these documents. We can find all these documents proving we have Indigenous ancestors, but we can't find a single document proving we're Africans.
Not one. I haven't ran into one to say anything about no African, nothing like that, just straight native. Now, somebody else's lineage, since he want to push the mess, he probably is African, but don't push that off on me. I don't have a problem with him being African. My thing is, why do they have a problem with my native ancestry? What's the big deal? What are you scared of? Why does it bother you so much that I'm native? Why? Why you want me to be African so bad? Why you want me to disregard my native heritage and just run around here with my head cut off talking about I'm African? If you want to tie yourself to that continent, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't care. All I care about is my heritage and other people that want to know and learn their heritage just like me, as far as being a native Black American. That's all I'm worried about, is our nation coming home, reclaiming what was taken from us, and growing and moving on and trying to find some type of healing and comfort. And the way how they push they trips and stuff to take people back in Africa so they can regenerate with they home and where they say they come from. We're not over there trying to stop them from doing that. I applaud them. Find your roots. Find your heritage. Go connect with the land, but don't try to defer us from connecting with ours when ours is right here and we always been hidden in plain sight. The Grand Awakening is happening and we're witnessing it in due time, present time, and it's a beautiful thing.
And secretly, they must know that they're really American Indians and not African. They must know this, and they must still be trying to lead us astray on purpose, because if they really felt that that was Wakanda, if they really felt that was the motherland, if that they really felt that that was the land that they were forcibly taken from, then why haven't they gone back? Why does the average Pan-African live comfortably in the United States and never even goes to Africa? Maybe visits once every few years to go to Egypt. That's it.
Good question. Why aren't they there trying to build the infrastructure and build up the country? Why aren't they moving back over there? I see so many go over there and come right back. Why, if Africa is such this great place, why aren't they doing what they need to do to build Africa up? Why not go over there? Why not go move in? Mm-hmm. Why isn't Africa calling its children home? I think if Africa knew that their children, that they did this wrong thing and they sold their the kids over here or whatever, the ancestors, why not do a homecoming? Oh, you guys are getting treated so bad over there, because they see it. They see the news. They see what everybody is doing on the YouTube and posting these videos. Why they ain't saying, y'all come up over here? We got grants for y'all. We got some land for y'all. We apologize. We sorry for what our ancestors did to your ancestors, sending y'all up over there. Y'all are kids, come home. Why they not doing that for the Pan-African? It's because they really not theirs. They really belong here, and they just want to claim over there, and the Africans want some type of tie to here. That's all it is.
Yeah, talk about it. But Miss Johnson, what do you think? Our resident fly on the wall.
Well, I have a lot to say, but it don't come out right sometimes. I'm trying to hold back because I don't want to disrespect.
Don't do it.
It don't have to come out right. It just got to come out.
There you go, Mike. Well, like I said before, it's one of those things like Ghana, sis, I was going to say Ghana did do a homecoming. They did reach out and try to get people to come on back, and people did go back over there. A lot of people were murdered. A lot of people came right back over here and told us how not to go over there. So what we got to remember too is that it's a whole bunch of different countries over there on that continent that's divided. They haven't learned how to work together yet, let alone try to come and control our people and tell us how to move over here, you know. But they continue to look at us. They look down on us when they come over here. They act like they're better than thou. Like they treat us like we're all thugs. Like some of the content you were playing about the little guy who was trying to teach people how to talk our slang. It's so many different things on how they condescend and how they look down on us, but they want us to be part of their people. I just don't understand it. I don't get how you could say that these people are bad. You don't want your children to marry into our families and things like that, but you still don't want us to separate and find our heritage and be our own people. I don't get that. It's asinine to me. Like,
no, I feel it. Yeah, I agree. And Vixen says, in my opinion, both YouTube channels, O'Shea Du Jackson and Phil Scott, have those African features, which I've noticed. I've already exposed O'Shea and Phil Scott for being undercover Africans. Yeah. Most of the people online deterring us from our indigenous roots, telling us we don't need tribal citizenship. We need to take an African DNA test. These people are foreigners cosplaying as us.
Yeah, I don't think that they're MBAs or the so-called FBAs. I don't think that they're neither. I think, you know, they probably got a couple, whatchamacallit, Scott, he looks like he probably got a couple of generations in, but he's definitely not one of us. Not talking like that. Not having the common sense to know our history and know what we've been through over here and know that there's great. They're just knocking the whole concept out, saying that there's no way at all. And we all know that with everything that went on here in the United States and with everything that's written, that this is possible and it is true. Because look at us. We're sitting right here. Mike, you have your card already. You have the paperwork already to show who you are. And it's millions more of us out here that just don't have that card. But ancestors are on those duns and on those dolls rolls, and they just haven't did the genealogy yet. Yeah. But we are here. Am I not here?
No, we all here, and we ain't no Africans, okay?
And I ain't no African.
And you know what? We've got a few more minutes left in that video, so let's see how he closes out this propagandist video, and then we'll do a little round robin of closing remarks, and we'll open up the platform for a Q&A. So if anybody in the audience has any questions, start posting them in the chat, and we'll get to them.
Under the Christopher Columbus voyage talks about that, and he said they knew the land too damn well. That's like enslaving me in my hood. How did these hunter-gatherers suddenly forget the lay of the land in which they hunted?
Asshole, we weren't hunter-gatherers. We built pyramids and civilizations and large gardens the size of forests. We were engineers and scientists and architects. The Asian migrants from the Bering Strait, they were the hunter-gatherer, nomad, scalping people roaming with the buffalo. That's not us.
And gather, unless they were from a different land altogether. A land that made them immune to the white man's diseases, which the Native Americans were not, which made them 4 times as resilient under the labor of slavery. Well, what about those photos of Black Indians? Well, the photograph was invented in 1826, which is 200 years plus after the first Africans arrived in James.
So he's going to cherry pick some pictures of Black Indians from the 1800s, okay? He's going to say, well, guys, those photos are from the 1800s. Photography was invented in the 1800s, you fucking imbecile. Photography did not exist in the 16th century, in the 17th century, in the early 1800s. Photography was invented in the mid-1800s and wasn't even commercialized. Everybody didn't even have access to a camera yet until the late 1800s, early 1900s. So you know what we got to rely on? Journals of conquistadors, like this one. That's chronicled in the book, The Antiquarian and Aboriginal History of America. Yeah, this conquistador journal from the early 1500s that says, though America possesses some dark brown men approaching to be Black, yet it has been almost universally believed that there were no Aboriginal Blacks or Negroes found on this continent. But from considering the peculiar circumstances under which a Black race was found in North America, I hold it more than probable that the common opinion is erroneous. They say that a conquistador went to the California coast, encountered some fair-skinned natives. The conquistadors had some African slaves with them. They told one of the Africans, one of the Negroes, to give a biscuit to one of the California natives, right? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I flipped the page too early. It says right here, when a Negro was ordered to distribute a biscuit to the Californians at the Bay of St. Barnabas, quote, the natives seemed greatly pleased at the sight of the Negro, and they signified to him that they lived in a friendship and correspondence with the people of his color, and that not far from there was a Negro village. So this dumbass is going to tell you, hey, those photos you see of Black Indians, well, those photos are like in the 1800s. Well, this conquistador journal saying there's Negro villages on the California coast. This is from the 1500s, right? Or maybe since photography wasn't invented yet, maybe we should rely on I don't know, how about paintings and murals? Because most people don't know that all throughout Germany, there are German churches just like this one. These German churches created in the 1600s and the 1700s, and these German churches paint on their ceilings, on their walls, depictions of American Indians. It says right here, Europe is dressed in a long gown and a red cloak. She wears a crown. Directly behind her stands the Black personification of America, wearing a blue and white feathered skirt and a crown. Well, let's see if we see a Black personification of America wearing a blue feathered skirt and a crown behind a kneeling Europe in a white cloak. Oh, damn! That's Europe kneeling in a red cloak. And this is the Black personification of America with the blue and white feathered skirt and headdress, right? Painted on the roof of a church in Germany. But this dumbass is going to tell us that we're not Indian because some of those photos of Black Indians were in the 1800s. Meanwhile, you go to this church in Germany and you look up at the ceiling and you say, whoa, wait a minute, those are Black Indians on the wall. And this isn't like an anecdotal example. We can sit here for the rest of the night and I can show you hundreds of these, but I'm just going to show you 2 more. And this one, they hit it on the roof of a stairway of a church. We in the back hallway of the church. You about to run up the stairs real quick. Well, slow down, playboy. Don't run up them stairs. Walk up them stairs slowly. Look up, because if you look up, you'll see there's something on the ceiling. What is that? Wait, what is this figure with the crocodile and stuff over there? Who is that? Oh, they're going to give us a description. They're going to tell us exactly who that is. It says right here. Oh, hold on, y'all. I got a speed read. Where's America? Here we go. In the left arch sits America, with dark complexion, in a gold-green adorned dress, over which a red cape falls. On her head, she wears a gold-decorated feathered headdress. While she has placed her left hand on the crocodile beside her, she seems to be warding something off with her right, almost in alarm. Whoa, and in the hallway of this German church in Germany, on the roof, we've got a depiction of an American Indian in green and a red cloak and a gold and feathered headdress with her left hand on a crocodile and the right hand held up in alarm. But guys, we're not Indian because those photos of Black Indians were taken in the 1800s. But that guy's not going to tell you that photography was invented in the 1800s. If we had Kodak moments in the 1600s, then we'd have photos of Black Indians from the 1600s. But I'll show you one more just for shits and giggles. This is a whole different church in Germany. This painting I'm going to show you was created in 1746, y'all. 1746. And let's read the description first. Africa and America are characterized by their dark skin and lavish feathered headdresses, representing barbaric continents. America's upper body is bare, her skin is dark brown. A feathered skirt and a red blanket cover her hips, and bands of feathers and pearls also adorn her upper arms. A crown sits on her head, around which a colorful turban is wrapped. Her hand points downward. She seems to be supporting the globe with her arm, indeed with the entire weight of her upper body, as if she wanted to protect it from being crushed or displaced by the powerful coil of the serpent's body. And if you go into this church, I wonder if we're going to see that somewhere. I'm seeing Jesus on the cross. I'm seeing some little white angels. I'm seeing, wait, what's that up on the roof? Oh shit, we got something on the roof. What is this? Oh, the Black personification of America with the feathered turban and the pearls and the hand on the globe holding it up and the serpent on the globe. Damn, y'all, damn. But Black Indians don't exist. Guys, ladies on the panel, what do you think about this? Do you think it's so strange that he's trying to act like photos of Black Indians in the 1800s like aren't credible or something?
Well, he's acting like we were blind or something, or like the historians were blind. They clearly painted what they seen. It's a picture of what they see, a description of what they seen and what they witnessed. And you can't take that away from them. It's right there. So, sis, what do you feel about it?
Exactly what you said, sis. They act like the people who were painting and drawing these pictures were dumb and couldn't distinguish colors in between people. I mean, that's the only thing they can say to try to make an excuse or try to discredit it, anything to remove us from the scenario. But it's clear to see that those are pictures of us, and we are who they found here when them ships landed here. It was us. It was nobody else but us. We were here. And the sooner they admit it, the better it'll be. The truth will set you free. And they need to just stop with all the nonsense. And it's just ridiculous at this point. It's too much information out here that we can obtain. Before the internet, they could lie to us. And we had to believe the teachers and everybody tell us that we were crazy when we mentioned that we were native. Oh, no, you're not. You're a slave. You're from Africa, you're this, you're that. And we were always too light and too dark to be in Black history. So the Black History Month plays. So which one is it? You know, who are we? Oh, you're light and have hazel eyes because it's some white in you. But I ain't found no white yet. It could be, but for the most part, all I found is native.
And they're going to try to discredit photos like these because they're in the 1800s or the 1900s. Oh, guys, these photos are in the 18 and 1900s, so they're really Africans that mix with natives. Gotcha.
No.
All right. Meanwhile, I already showed the photo of my ancestor who's listed as a full-blooded Indian. So again, this guy just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But fortunately, I think we only have a couple more minutes. I mean, it's so hard to even get through his video, but let's see what else he has for us.
Virginia. which means that that's more than enough time for Africans who have been sold into slavery, escaped, intermingled with, and been adopted into Native American culture.
What did I just tell you guys? Oh, there's photos of Black Indians in the 1800s. Well, you guys were slaves. You escaped. You went to an Indian village, and then you mixed with the natives, and that's why you're Black Indians.
By the time the first photograph was ever taken, plus the overwhelming majority of photographs from the 1800s of Native Americans who have not been mixed look like we expect Native Americans to look. Now,
No. Those are photos cherry-picked by J.P. Morgan and the Smithsonian depicting Bering Strait migrants, depicting Southwestern Plains natives. But he's going to tell us, well, look at these other photos of the... What are you talking about? So when you see photos in the 1800s of Black Indians, oh, it's not real. They're Africans that are mixed. But when you see photos of these Indians, you say, oh, yeah, that's the true Indians. That's what they look like. What?
Now, look, there's certainly more evidence that we could talk about on either side of this debate. However, I want us to be careful of the fact that in us trying to fight against an erasure, we might be participating in one. Because Native Americans, they got a lot of reparations. They end up getting land. But number one, if you ever been to the reservation, I ain't sure that that's what you want. And number two,
what are you talking about?
What did you want to say?
My tribe's reservation includes the entire city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as Muskogee, Oklahoma. What are you talking about?
We do have a power that's greater than them. That is the power of numbers. And if we're not careful, we could be used as a pawn to not only eradicate them further, but disconnect us from a rising and increasingly powerful and sovereign African continent. And I'm gonna leave.
What sovereign African continent is there? Africans are puppets of European colonial masters to this day. He's really trying to fearmonger you guys into saying, stop doing your genealogy, stop looking into your family's indigenous heritage, because you're actually stripping away true Indian heritage and messing up their African sovereign thing that they're imagining. I mean, what? Hold on. It's almost done. It's almost done.
Leave y'all with this. I recently had the privilege of going to Elmina Castle, the largest slave castle in Ghana, West Africa.
Okay, I'll just end it here. We don't even have to debunk how these slave castles are fake. They're tourist traps. He's too lost in the sauce. We'll just stop right there. Empress, what do you think about that? I mean, he really tried to say that we're gonna like mess up native communities and we're being used as pawns. These native tribes kicked us out for a reason. They don't want us to reclaim our heritage, but he's gonna try to flip it on us and make us think that we're being used as pawns.
This is it's so many ways. It's so much I have to say about this. It sounded like he was trying to guilt trip us, like us finding our genealogy, who we are, is gonna hurt Africa from becoming this great sovereign nation because we want to know who we are. Please don't go digging and find out who you really are. We're trying to be great over here. If you guys do that, it's gonna hurt us. Like, that's how I just took that. Are you trying to guilt trip us? Nah, buddy, that's not working up over here. That's not. I'm telling everybody go do their genealogy and find out who they are and honor their native ancestry. Yes, I am. And as far as him trying to say we're trying to hurt the Plains people, that's not true. If anybody's trying to hurt anybody, it's the Plains people that hurt us and went against us again and stripped us from what was rightfully ours. So why we got to sit up here and take the higher road? No, I'm not Michelle Obama. When they go low, I go lower, and I'm reclaiming what's mine. I'm sorry, you can't guilt trip me over here. If you do that, you're gonna hurt us. Don't hurt us, please.
Hey, it's a tale as old as time. I literally reacted to a video about a year ago now of some African girls screaming at us, claiming we're not really Indians and we need to stop looking into it because we're going to harm their African identity. And African is going to shrink and shrink and shrink because we're getting in touch with our indigeneity.
That don't have nothing to do with me. That what they going through and they issues up over there in their country, and with them trying to tie ourselves to our struggle and the fights and the wars that we've been through, and had to pull all out and just take care of each other just with us. Things that they did not do over here for us, that they come over here and take credit for. No. No, that what they going through over there, that's their business. That's a whole continent of black people. And there's no reason why they should be going through what they going through up over there. They could blame it on the colonizers coming over there, stealing their resources. You let them because y'all dirty up over there and corrupt up over there. Ain't no way. It's just not no. I ain't even gonna go there.
Hey. Let me really put this in perspective. Check this out. This is how crazy it is. Africans on the African continent total in the number of 1.4 billion. There was 1.4 billion of you guys, and you're convincing us that we're going to somehow harm you by delineating and getting in touch with our indigenous heritage. Guys, they say there's around 45 million of us black folks in America. 45 million. 45 million is 3.2% of 1.4 billion. Y'all want us to believe that our little 3% of your population, you need us so bad and you got to have us identify with you and call ourselves African American. If you need this minority group from the other side of the world so bad, then you ain't got a leg to stand on.
Right.
A lot of y'all ain't crunched some numbers. Y'all don't know it was 1.4 billion of them, only 45 million of us in North America. I mean, if you count all the black indigenous people of the Caribbean, South America, it's more. But just in the US of A, there's 45 million, and they're worried about us so bad, aren't they?
It makes you want to go dig deeper and find out.
What are they hiding?
More. Like, why? What is the purpose?
What is it?
Yeah. Why are you so invested in us?
Really invested. Worried about our reparations and some more stuff. You seen that stuff about the reparations?
Yeah.
They added us in as what, they fifth nation, they sixth nation or something like that, part of the diaspora, and talking about, why are y'all worried about what's going on up over there? Y'all need to worry about what's going on over there.
It's bad enough they even try to include us in their diaspora when we're not even a part of it like that.
No.
You need to prove that you descend from an African slave, and then you're a part of that diaspora.
Look, I done met some African people of African descent that have been cool, but majority of them that I run into in my experiences with them, they're really condescending. They don't like us at all. Majority. I've got a few. When I say few, I could count on my hands. That's been cordial and not condescending and not saying rude things. The other ones, they're very rude and condescending, and they really don't like us. So why are you trying to connect yourself to us? It's because we're valuable. It's because of the things that we have done here. It's because the way we fight. It's the way how we keep pulling ourselves up out of the smoke every single time like a phoenix. We keep coming back and back. We won't give up. We keep fighting and fighting. And it's the accomplishments that we have made. Everybody wants to tie themselves to that. I can understand. But what I have to say about that is no. We got a mission to accomplish, and that's to bring us all home, awaken every single one of us that we can.
That's right.
And reclaiming what's ours. And I'm not going to let anybody, not no Pan Goofy, not anybody, not them ones up over there in London, Great Britain, whatever. I'm not going to let anybody get in the way of what we got going on. Because like you said before, Mike, when the guy asked you the other night, he said, oh, you guys want reparations and Indian land too? Yes, we want it all.
All of it.
We want it all. So that's where we're at with it. We're here to reclaim what's ours. And we're going to get it. One way or another, we're going to get it.
That's right. And guys, I've crunched the numbers. This is why they're trying to keep us from our indigenous roots. When we talk about slavery reparations, when we fall under the guise of us all descending from West African chattel slaves, and we advocate for reparations under that notion, that reparations is between 10 to 11 trillion dollars that we're owed. But if that's not the case, if we're not West African slaves imported here, if we're the true indigenous Americans of this land that were colonized, victims of biological terrorism, enslaved, reclassified, well, guess what, guys? I've crunched the numbers. Then our reparation claim goes from 10 to 11 million to 40 to 50 million. That's why they will never want us to wake up to our indigenous roots.
Well,
Talk to me, Mike.
A lot of us are.
So which one is it? They gonna take this easy road, or they gonna take the high road? They gonna take the
low. The way they're trying to push this propaganda with the Pan-Africanism, we'll see which road they're trying to take. They're trying to use that 6th district of the Pan-Africanism and give our reparations to them.
And that's not gonna work. They're gonna cause a whole lot of problems with that. But no matter what they trying to do with this reparations, I'm getting my tribal citizenship. I'm bringing that home to the family, not just for me, but for my grandmother, my mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather that was stripped out of that in 1979 when I was just 4 years old. I'm getting all of that back.
That's right.
It's coming home.
That's right. We're going to get there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's all I have for you this evening. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up the broadcast. Again, if anybody's new to me, new to my content, make sure to subscribe. Check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com. I wasn't even planning on going live today, but I seen that the Pan-Goofies made this video the other day. I seen that they titled it, "Are We African? Are We Indigenous Americans? Settling the Debate?" And that dumb motherfucker really thinks he just settled the debate when the debate ain't even began yet. And there's no reality that we live in where Wilson wants to debate me.
None of them. Want that smoke. Nobody want that smoke. With the king of receipts, who want that smoke? Who dumb enough to do that? Who's dumb enough to get up there and say that?
Come on. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you later. Ladies, after I wrap up the stream, just go ahead and stay on the StreamYard and I'll debrief with you afterwards. But shout out to everybody tuning in. We'll see you guys later in the week.
Bye, everyone.
Peace. And don't fall for the okie doke, okay? Them Pan-Africans are trying to grift onto our movement. Them Pan-Goofies is trying to say we are Indians, but really we descend from ancient African migrants. Just don't fall for the okie doke. And we'll see you next time. Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.